Good morning, everybody. If you'd like to take your seats. Okay, I think we're pretty much ready to start now. First of all, I think my voice is a little bit better. It doesn't feel so bad here. I'm not sure it makes any difference out, but hopefully it'll be a bit clearer today. First of all, yesterday we had quite an intense day yesterday where we were demonstrating all of the tools and some tips and tricks from the network manager perspective. We're going to shift the emphasis today and bring in your colleagues, the aircraft operator colleagues. We're also to look at all the various ways that they use the system. Those colleagues are a little more experienced who can show you the tips and tricks and the functionalities from their perspective. I'll introduce that in a second. We also have some other information from ATC and also a little on the B2B area. So a slightly different emphasis today. I think it's important that we still emphasize that this is an interactive day, so I won't use the QR codes to ask questions, but as you probably saw yesterday, you'll always get a priority if you stick your hand up, so please make sure you do that. Any other questions that aren't resolved in the room, obviously we've got our experts on the stand and I'd like you to use them as well. They'll be available to you in the various breaks that we have. Just lastly, before I introduce Nikos, those of you that were here last year may remember that this time last year it was snowing and the weather was pretty awful. So I'd just like to personally like to thank Boris for organising the beautiful weather that we have today. And of course, I'd furthermore like to thank him for the fact we're now stuck in this room without any windows, so we can't actually take advantage of it. But anyway, it's nice to know it's there, and thank you to Boris for that. Okay, so let's crack on with the first session. I'd like to introduce Nikos from Aegean Airlines. He's going to go through various aspects of the NMP flight, NMUI flight, to be supported by Andy. So without any more ado, over to you, Nikos.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nikos Malagas, and while my name might suggest otherwise, I'm not from Spain. I'm Greek. Today I have the honor of representing Aegean Airlines at Flight Dispatcher Days 2025 to present how we utilize the NMP system and highlight its crucial role in our daily operations. Now a few brief about Aegean Airlines. Aegean Airlines is the largest airline in Greece. Its main hub is Athens International Airport, and it serves an extensive operating network across Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa, with a trend to expand. Our fleet consists of 2 Airbus A320neos, 14 Airbus A321neos, 4 Airbus A321, and 28 Airbus A320. We also operate with Olympic Air, mostly at domestic segments, with 2 Dash 8-100, 3 ATRs 42-600, and 12 ATR 72600. Our network includes routes ranging from our shortest flight, which is just 5 minutes, between 2 Greek islands, Kassos and Karpathos. It's one of the shortest routes in Europe. To our longest, which is approximately 6 hours from Athens to Gran Canaria Airport. During the summer peak time season, our network can reach approximately 450 flights per day within the highly demanding European airspace, as you all know. At Aegean Airlines, we strive to be at the forefront of innovation, always seeking to incorporate the latest, most advanced systems into our daily operations. This commitment to innovation is why we were among the first airlines to gain access to the NMP system. We are early adopters, and I would just like to refer to our transition from NOP and CHMI to NMP. Initially, we integrated NMP alongside NOP and CHMI, but today we have chosen NMP as our primary system due to its enhanced features and capabilities. All newly hired flight dispatchers at the Aegean Airlines first train at NMP, with NOP and CHMI serving as backup systems. Beyond utilizing NMP, Aegean Airlines plays an active role in its development and enhancement, working closely with stakeholders to ensure that the system evolves to meet the real-world operational needs of aircraft operators. NMP Flight is the new EUROCONTROL Network Manager external interface for airspace users, the eventual replacement of CHMI and NOP portal that offers some new and enhanced features, including user configurable alerting in order to identify flights that need attention and immediate actions from the aircraft operator's flight dispatcher. We will see later on how we have set up the system based on this tool. We can save the flight list queries, which can be available on the browser every time the user logs in. And we have the user configuration. Also, there's a significant improvement in alternate route proposals. We can validate flight plans against the next or ad hoc AIRACs, and we can have access to the IFPS history of flight plan messages, including a one-click action to recreate rejected flight plans. There is also available enhanced access to NM route catalog. Now, let's explain how we work at the Aegean Airlines with NMP at our daily operation. We can see here that we can set the profiles via email, the name. This is the setup of the profile. And we can manage users from here too. A very important feature here and tool is this question mark. It's help, which includes information in detail about any feature is included at NMP environment, along with some video tutorials. New flight query. From here, we have saved our flight lists. As you can see, upon my login, it's here. The results are here. We can see the focus alerts of configuration. There are all these. Many OBT validities, as you can see. Aircraft registration mismatch, it's an ACDM alarm. 6 flight suspensions, 1 diversion alert, 2 yo-yos, and 1 sharp turn. In this case here, we can see a diversion alert. The flight was initially planned from Sitia to Kassos, and it made the short route to Karpathos due to wind, the 5 minutes flight that I referred previously. This is important that we can have an alert displayed here at every time a flight can go to its destination. Okay, we can have here an example about a sharp turn flight. As we can see, when we click on the aircraft identification, we can have access to the menu of flight management. And of course here are there available the flight details, airspace profile, point profile, e-help desk is here, the ops log, history and IFPS history. At our case, we want to see the flight management. As you can see here,
Left click. It's a left click.
okay,
You've right clicked. No, just use the left click on the maximize button.
yeah, I know, but it's okay.
That's okay.
Okay, here we can see a sharp turn. And we can go have a route proposal to see if this indicator is still there. As we can see here, from the proposed routes, the one that we need is this one. As you can see, this overlaps the sharp turn here. You can check it out and validate it. It's valid. So we can send the change message. Refresh our flight. And the sharp turn is gone. Another example that we can check is that this flight from Athens to Venice, that we can see that there's a yo-yo indicator. Let's visualize it at flight management. It's a vertical one. Okay, here we can see that there is a yo-yo indication, and we can go propose a route in order to fix this up. I think that no pilot would like to fly this yo-yo. Okay, we can see here also from the flight levels we're 380, 380, 380 here. We can validate this plan, visualize it, the U is gone. And send a change with the fixed flight levels. Then we can refresh our flight list, and we also can see that the yo-yo indicator is now gone. In terms of time and accuracy, all these alerts give us the the opportunity to save time, to be quicker, to be precise. And we will see some more examples. You can see that we have set it up here, all these alerts, all these user alerts. We can click here. We can add or remove columns from here. As we can see from this screen, the displayed items are 32 that we have chosen to be shown. There are more 23 items available that we could use, but according to our operational needs and upon every flight dispatcher, you can configure this and see whatever you need to be shown. From here, you can clear filters and sorts. You can manage filters and sorts. Here it's a subturn ascending, or we can make an EOBT ascending or descending. We can save this flight list as a default, and from this screen, we can manage the alerts. The customized alerts are split in the focus alerts, user alerts, and the ACDM alarms. Sorry. The focus alerts, we can choose them by importance, high, medium, low, or no focus alert. We set them up, they're available here. When we apply, they're saved, and every time that we log in, they will be available there for us. So, we can see the rerouting opportunities. From this column, it's very important that we can see difference in our flight cost, sometimes, and for delays too. Okay, we can see an opportunity example. Seven Lima Delta X-ray. When we scroll down, you can see that there is an indicator for a routing opportunity. And thus you can see here it's not much so effect of high importance, but it is an opportunity since we gain some time, we gain at nautical miles, cost, so we can try this one by validating here. The flight plan is changed, item 15 is changed here too, so we validate it and we can see that it's valid. We can simply send the change from here and have the new route filed. We copy item 15, we transfer it out our flight planning system. We use a Lido system for our flights in Aegean. We transfer it there, we calculate it, we file and send it to EUROCONTROL 2. Another example could be, okay, opportunity set uniform mic. Oh, just a moment. No, you can see it's grayed out. The flight is already departed. 831. The opportunity indicator was there. We saw a significant difference at cost. The routing opportunity, available routes for the opportunity. We validate. If we want to file it, by the way we saw previously, and there is something to point out here. because it's important. When we use the opportunity tool, we must give a feedback about the reason that we use it, fuel savings, flying time. We can do it like that. We can write a comment about this, and when we submit this one, the opportunity indication at our flight list will disappear. If we don't do this, we will see at our list the new file route, but this alert will still be here. So we have to give this feedback in order for this indication to disappear from our flight list. We can now see another example of a flight heavily regulated. Athens, as always. When the flight is regulated, we can see at the list the regulation reason. If we want to check exactly about the regulation, we can go into it. Here is displayed some details that we would like to know about the applied regulation. We can see the average delay from here in order to have a clearer view about our delays. It's due to the reason, due to ATC capacity, it's active. And if we go at this context menu, we can see in detail the regulation. Reason ATC capacity, the measure ID, Athens, arrivals. Let's check a flight with a regulation. It should have a regulation and route. Okay, 5:30 now. We can have an example of en route regulation to this flight, from a flight to Munich to Thessaloniki. There are two regulations here. We can try to avoid the one vertically. Here are the criteria that we can reroute. Horizontal, vertical, we can either reroute vertical or horizontal. In this case, we can propose a route to avoid this regulation. And we can see that there are several regulations in the upper sector. All the delays from Athens ATC capacity, you can see that are high. It is a test system, but it has retrieved the file flight plans. Arrival regulations too in Amsterdam. Okay. This is the way that we use the NMP system. There are some times that we use also for the same regulation, as my good colleague Martin from KLM will show later, for the swap tool. When we have flights under the same regulation, we can swap CTOTs. It's very helpful. We use it too. We can see that there is a EOBT validity list. And the way that we can check it out is we see the EOBT validity time. We can go here, try to validate it after this one. And if it's not valid, we can propose a route and use it in order to calculate it. These are some examples that we use as a system at the Aegean Airlines. A very good tip is what Mr. Woolen referred yesterday, that if we'd like to reroute or make any changes at route proposal criteria in terms of time, we can deselect the generated and let the standard order mixer in order to save time, because it takes more time to calculate it over these three aspects. Another small tip that we use in Aegean is this note field. When we work together with other colleagues, there may be a provisional en route regulation, and the flight dispatcher goes in, see the provisional delay, he calculates a flight plan which avoids this regulation, but we don't still file it because it's too early. So we prepare a flight plan at our flight planning system, and we can make here a reroute proposal just for info between the colleagues that we are working. Everyone can see that between the team. There is a route proposal for OFP number 9 in order to avoid the regulation that maybe this flight is implemented too. We can see it here. Something more about the help button. Especially at the beginning, this is very helpful. This includes online help for many features. And it will be very helpful, the glossary that is included. As we all know, EUROCONTROL is the kingdom of abbreviations. So we can find all that's included here. This is a small brief of how we use the system. And in order to conclude, by embracing the cutting-edge technology like NMP, Aegean Airlines continues to optimize efficiency and punctuality, enhance operational control, always based on situational awareness, and maintain our commitment to excellence in aviation with flight plan accuracy. I would like to thank you all. I'm looking forward to discuss whatever you want about the use of the system from our side. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikos. Thank you very much for the comprehensive overview there, seeing how an airline actually uses it. And it was interesting to see some of the crossover between the presentations from yesterday. I just wanted to make one point about acronyms. I think you're probably right. I'm not sure. I think maybe NATO might just beat us, but we're certainly in the top 5 when it comes to acronyms. Okay, does anybody have any immediate comments and questions in the room? Gentleman in the white shirt, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Me again. Just a quick question about the notes column. Me and my colleagues were always wondering, when we write a note in there, is it just visible for our own organization, or can other airlines also see the notes that we write in there?
I'll take that, Andy. Andy?
Yeah, it's the notes field and also the categories that are selected at the front. They're all confidential to your organization.
Okay, so nobody else can see what you write in there, so you can remember that. Make a little note of it.
Sorry, I'll just add on top of that, there is another feature in there where if you have some sort of commercial agreement with another airline, you can configure the tool to show your information to those other airlines. So if you have configured other airlines in that, they would also have access to visibility on those category and note field.
Thank you. I think that's one of the things that came out very strongly from first of all, yesterday's presentations, but also from Nikos' presentation about the configurability, if that's a word, the configurability, the ability to configure to your particular needs. And I think that's a really powerful tool. You can also, if you remember from Natalia's presentation yesterday, we are enhancing that configuration ability as well. So I think that's really useful stuff. Kenneth, you had your hand up, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Just a comment, and thank you, Nikolaus, for that really good presentation, because I think it's so important that our dispatchers know all the small tips and tricks, because this is a complicated system. So it is important that we use it to its fullest to get all the advantages that we can get. However, from you, Falder, and I, Falder, we have one small remark, is that we have to be very, very careful about sending the change message via the NM portal. And the reason for this is that, and everybody knows that here, is that on a very, very busy day, there is a risk that the dispatch either forgets or being distracted and do not copy item 15 over to their respective flight planning system. And now we have an ATC flight plan, an operational flight plan, which do not match. Now, some flight planning systems are advanced enough to give an alert on this, like you use Lido, they can do that. But other flight planning systems are not able to do that. So there is a small risk. So from our side, we recommend that you do not send a change message via the portal, but copy paste it over your flight planning system, send a change message from there, so you're sure that your operational flight plan is updated, and then the pilots have the correct OFP and correct ATC flight plan.
Thank you.
Especially if they're auto-loaded into the FMS,
yeah.
Right? Because a lot of flight planning systems are auto-loading.
Okay, thank you, Richard. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Nikos and then Andy.
Okay, thank you for your comments. It was just a demonstration and example to see that we can do it. We have the ability to send the change also from NMP. In our daily operations, we rarely and never do it. I think it's just known that we have to file it and upload it from our flight planning system. Here we test, we see if it's valid, we copy it, we transfer it to our flight planning system, and then file and upload from our flight planning system. But thank you.
Okay, thanks for the clarification there, Nikos. Andy, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I just want to go back to something Natalia mentioned yesterday about we're working on the next version of the system to have a concept of a super user in your organization or an administrator level in your organization. And some of the feedback we got was that it's too easy to put a delay of flight from the second glance, and we've added the cancel message in the next version, and that's too easy to get to for a dispatcher. Some organizations will want to leave those, take them away from the quick access, but leave them after a few clicks. But some organizations don't want that at all. We've had one carrier say, can you please take away the file to IFPS button for our dispatchers? We have a procedure not to use it, but occasionally somebody still breaks the procedure and uses it. So that's the sort of thing we'll be implementing in either the next version or maybe the version in 2026, where you as a super user or administrator in your organization will be able to take away the access for your dispatchers to certain functionality, to be decided which functionalities they are. But that's the concept we're coming to be able for you to protect yourselves using the system rather than just relying on procedures to say don't use it. Of course, there is a slight danger when you say don't send a change message, because occasionally you'll get an ACDM alert, there's a mismatch in aircraft registration, you realize it's in your flight plan, you want to quickly get rid of that alert, so you can quickly just do a registration change and hit the change message, doesn't impact your OFP, so that's okay to use. So you really want to get rid of the whole concept of sending a change message or just sending a change message for a route.
Thank you, Andy. So again, we continue to evolve the system to give you even more configuration so that you can get exactly to align exactly with your procedures. Francois, I believe you had a question.
Just to comment on that, I think it's a very good improvement that you are talking about, because on that point we could have safety issues directly tied to that. So I think it's good.
Good, thank you. That's good to hear. Are there any questions? Any further questions? Oh, goodness, yes. Okay, sir, gentleman down here.
How do you split the screen, like the two parts?
I'm going to go. So, hang on a second. I didn't quite hear the question. Andy, do you want to address? It was about the splitting of the screen. Microphone, sir.
The focus alerts at the top are the way to control whether you split your screen. So at the moment, if you see they were highlighted the colours fully filled in it, it means that you've requested those to be put to the top. So you just click on and off those, and if you want, you can only bring to the top. So if you just want to see the yo-yo flight, you can just click individually and it will bring it to the top. So it's all controlled from those boxes at the top.
Does that answer the question? Okay, good stuff. There was another hand up over gentleman at the back there.
If you amend the flight plan and you send a change or revision of the flight plan, does it then send a copy to the originator of the original flight plan?
Andy, can you get that one?
If you have set up your flight planning system to receive ACK, MAN, reject messages, the operational reply messages from EUROCONTROL, that if you then use one of those functions, your AFTN CETA address is anyway built into the background of the system, so there will be a response from that change message to your flight planning system to say that the change, cancel, delay, whatever has been executed in the system.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions in the room? Anybody? Yes, gentleman in the white shirt.
Hello. Quick question about the notes tab. We often fly non-commercial flights under tail number and not like call sign, and this note tab is not available. Is it planned in the future to fix that, or maybe to have a list of tail numbers that will be manageable by the airlines?
So when you're flying under your registration,
yes,
the note tab is not available. Is that correct? Yeah? Okay, I shall go to Andy for an answer on that one.
Yes, sorry, again, it is a bit like the criticality indicator. It's these features are controlled by the ICAO aircraft identifiers. So if you're a BizJet, GA, and don't fly under that, you have some small amounts of limited functionality. But we are looking at ways to solve this. It is work in progress.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions at the moment? I know there's a couple online which I'll come to in a second, but I actually had a question for Andy. Nikos mentioned about the feedback, the thumbs up and the thumbs down, and that you have to give that. I was going to ask what we do with the feedback and how we. Oh, of course, it's for Boris. I apologize. Yes.
I was thinking to cover it as a part of my demonstration later with KLM, but in short, it has direct effect on the outcome of the following rerouting of that flight. So the route that was in the moment validated and tested by the dispatcher and for which we have received the feedback will not be proposed in the following execution of the automated tool, but also will not be proposing the manual execution of our rerouting tools. And this rule applies only for that flight, so it's not something that will be saved for the other flights on that city pair of that operator. This is immediate effect. Also, we use that information in the post-ops to better tune the actually templates together with the airlines. I will explain it a bit later. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so we'll get a little bit more explanation on that later, but I think it's useful for you guys to know that that thumbs up button isn't just there for likes on social media. It is actually that we do something with it to improve the service that we give to you. Chris, are there a couple of questions that we have from the queue?
Yep, Gospel. Does the reroute keep you clear of severe icing and turbulence?
Boris or Andy, can you take that one, do you think? I think the answer is no.
Nope.
Because we wouldn't necessarily have that information.
And the second question was, how does it calculate fuel and operating costs?
Again, this is about the opportunity to calculate the fuel. In case of the opportunities, we are using a predefined setup agreed with individual airlines, where we introduce, for example, the price of the fuel and also the price of other parameters we are considering when rerouting a flight. That parameters could be linked with the route charges, can be linked with estimated ATFM delay, or also the flight time. So these are basic parameters normally that system considers when the routes are being identified by the opportunity tool.
Thank you, Boris. Are there any other questions from online? Chris? Nope. Okay. Anything else in the room before we start drawing this to conclusion? It's a good opportunity to anything that's bugging you, anything you didn't quite understand. I think thank you, Nikos, for bringing up the question mark, the user guides, and that help file there. I think these are things that have significantly improved in all of our applications over the recent iterations, and I wonder whether people aren't quite aware of them and the amount of information that's in there. So thank you very much for bringing that up. Andy's just asked me if I can ask him to expand a little bit on some of the stuff that Nikos was saying regarding the nav editor. It's important that we get as much information out as possible, so I'm going to hand the floor to Andy.
Yeah, thank you. It was briefly mentioned by Nikos that the facility is there. It was something that I had planned to mention yesterday, but time prevented me. There is this tool inside NMP Flight, which is currently only available to airlines, although we have had requests. The German ANSP, who's in the room, have asked for access, and it makes no sense not to give access to everybody. But the concept is that today we have the AIRAC switch every 28 days, 5 days before an AIRAC switch. We finally give access to airlines to see any changes that the next AIRAC may have. They're able to validate flight plans within 5 days in advance of the AIRAC, and that's not sufficient time to do the job for some airlines, especially when there are major airspace changes coming in an AIRAC. So in the nav editor, there is this option around between 14 and 17 days before the next AIRAC. We load the current latest version of that AIRAC, not necessarily the complete final AIRAC. That is the one that comes at 5 days, but almost complete. Most of the changes should have been published in time, but we always have some small problems to fix in the data or late publication. But there you have access to this next AIRAC, so you can go early access, go and have a look. If you're worried about your company routes having problems in a major airspace change in the next AIRAC, you can go, and it's very similar to the free text editor. You put your flight plan into the editor, you validate it. This function is available via B2B web services, so it is possible for you to connect via your flight planning system or directly, if you have your own tools, to a B2B web service that would do all that for you in a bulk validation load, 14 to 17 days before the AIRAC. And finally, underneath, you'll see it says, if you very carefully look under that grey, ad hoc AIRAC. That is sometimes used for major airspace changes further in the future, where if Karlsruhe are having major free route airspace implementation, they may ask us to load that AIRAC for 6 months in the future, and will give access to the airlines to have a look at how that airspace change will impact their operation. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Andy. So I'm going to throw the floor open to a couple of questions. Gentleman at the back there from Delta, thank you.
Just a quick question on the nav editor. Is that the full global AIRAC or just the European airspace? I would assume the full global AIRAC, but...
That's the second good question. That's the second time I've seen you stump Andy in this. That's a good one.
I can go, I'm sorry.
No, I want you to stay. That's good. It's good stuff. It's nice to see.
I mean, we do not hold all global aeronautical data in our database. We hold the European area of our responsibility and all of the adjacent state information. We have a lot of information on routes, points, FIRs, etc., but it's not complete. And the most important limitation is that when you press the validate button, we will not tell you if something's wrong outside of that area of responsibility. So you will see some of the data there, but it's not much use in terms of checking a flight plan against that data outside the IFPS area of responsibility.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification, Andy. Edward?
Thank you. So Andy, along those lines, we currently use the RAIS process for the AIRAC changes through the RNDSG. Are these AIRAC changes that you're talking about above and beyond that, or is it kind of the same source all melded together?
It's the same, Ed.
Perfect. Thank you. That's a great answer.
Okay. Good stuff. Gentleman here.
Hello, again, Schnee with United Airlines. Could you please briefly explain, since this is a timely discussion, as AIRAC is happening this evening, when operator either validate or files a flight plan, discuss the timing of the cutover into the next nav database when I work through this app?
Andy, are you able to address that for us, please?
That's the third one, Chris, now. Yeah, it's the timing of the AIRAC switch you're talking about. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, yeah, so it's the same with all of our systems. The behavior is all the same. We still work on using the AIRAC of the estimated off-block date time of the flight. We have some protection in our own system to warn internally when there is a data inconsistency, knowing that a flight is operating over midnight. However, we still have lots of problems over that AIRAC switch with the different databases on board aircraft being changed, especially when flights are coming out of regions of the world where the AIRAC switch time is not midnight UTC. So yeah, it's a constant problem that we have. But yeah, simple answer to your question is we just still use the UTC estimated off-block date time of the flight.
I think it's fairly a known issue for long-haul operations that, you know, a flight departs a day before, but the expectation may be flight plan based on a new navigational data, but airlines have limitations on how we can use that data due to FMC complexities and such. So I think this is something that maybe things will go to manual handling, and hopefully it gets addressed that way. Hope. Maybe I'm misunderstanding how to resolve that.
Yeah, we do get to situations where there are major airspace changes, where points are new in the next AIRAC, where we have a non-pass. We don't have a solution. You know, there is no. We can reject a flight plan and say you have to use the correct point name based on our decision. But of course, you have a system that doesn't have that point in it. So, you know, it becomes somewhere manual. And quite often we try on those difficult AIRACs to take the manual intervention in our ops room, where possible, to override some of those errors. but it is problematic, and we've worked and worked trying to find global solution to this, and we haven't found the spark yet to find a solution. It's still ongoing.
Yeah, eventually as an airline, we found an airway that was not impacted, and then we moved on, so thanks.
You know, I think there's a reasonably simple solution. You should just have FMSs which carry 2 air racks. It's just do a quick upgrade on all your aircraft.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm joking.
I'm not an expert in that, but that seems like a monumental issue.
Yeah, exactly. And as Andy said, and you quite rightly pointed out, you know, this is an issue that is not easy. If it was easy to resolve, we would have resolved it by now. There is always, I think, at least in the foreseeable future, a manual necessity, you know, a manual intervention required on that one. But I think we have certainly improved things to the state we're in now. I'm going to keep. There seems to be a bit of a conversation going here, so I'm going to indulge myself and allow a few more questions. So. Gentlemen, I think you're from Kalita. Yes, that's right.
Yes, sir. Bryce with Kalita. So kind of in line with the conversation that's currently going on, in the event that we do have an issue with a waypoint or an airway that are conflicting in the AIRAC cycles, is there a way to use that feedback feature that we talked about earlier and maybe escalate it in some way so that it gets proper eyes on it and that we can kind of resolve the issue a little bit quicker? Is there a way to do that?
Andy, can I ask you to give an opinion?
Yeah, when you have currently we have 2 help desks. We have the one that we've talked in depth about yesterday, which is the flow management help desk, but we also have the flight planning help desk, which is our ops room IFPS staff. And in cases such as that, you should reach out to the IFPS help desk, and they will find a solution. And quite often it's not just you. It's not, you know, the first contact is usually alerting us on something that's going to affect lots of airlines. So it's important that we then look at, and we'll find solutions hopefully, so we solve the problem so the next flight plans that come in will not have that problem. But yeah, it's not the e-help desk or the flow help desk, it's the specific flight planning help desk you have to contact.
Flight planning help desk, and it is important that those things are alerted to us so that we can then, as you say, we're not going to be, it's unlikely you're going to be the only one affected, so it is important if you have an issue to flag it up. Yes, Mr. Woolen, I think you are, yes.
Yeah, Andy Woolen from EUROCONTROL. Good morning. Just to say that we are looking at a single help desk in the short term, so you won't have to start thinking which help desk do we contact. So because it does sound quite poor, in my opinion, that we're telling you to contact one help desk for one problem and another. So it is something that's work in progress.
It is indeed. Okay, any other questions in the room? It's been, it's good to get the conversation going, and this is a good opportunity. Thank you very much. Gentleman at the back there, number 30, I believe you are.
Hello, it's Martin from Swiss. I just wanted to ask about the CHMI pre-vol. Will that be completely integrated into NMP Flight as well? Because at the moment we rely on that quite much for the AROC cycle pre-maintenance.
It's exactly the same data that I've just shown. It's just another access point, the CHMI pre-vol.
And the map will show the same details like in CHMI?
In the release, as Natalia mentioned yesterday, we're working as first priority in delivering a map in NMP or NMUI flight in November that is equal to the current CHMI map in functionality. So yes, it will eventually have that level of granularity. However, today it does not.
So by November, you should be able to replicate, correct me if I'm wrong here, you should be able to replicate the full functionality that you currently have for pre-vals and the CHMI in the NMUI flight. I'm looking at Andy just to check that that's correct. Yes, that's okay. So it's just the map part at the moment that needs adding.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome, sir. Any other questions in the room? Is there anything online, Chris, that we... two questions online. Let's address
First
those.
one, what kind of weather upper air data model does NMP use for RRPs? Up-to-date monthly average? What is the weather model?
Go on, Boris.
So the NM system is having access to the wind information. We have access actually to different weather data, but the wind information is used when we are proposing the route. And really the wind is updated daily. I think in the defined schedule of 3 hours.
I think it's every 3 hours. We can
yeah,
double
so it's
check
quite
that for
fresh.
if required, but I believe it's refreshed every 3 hours. Yeah. Chris?
Second question, since a few weeks when logging on with the NMP RSA token, clicking on the RAD brings up a new login window with the Okta, which is the new MFA. However, we don't have an account yet. Is there a possibility to create one? And when will this be fixed?
Yes, there is.
There will be an announcement reasonably soon on this. I don't know, for those who used to use the RAD application from within the NMP application suite, would have noticed that a few months ago it suddenly disappeared and you didn't have access anymore. Well, we are going to put back, probably in May, the RAD application into the NMP suite, and with that it will require MFA authorization when you log in, and there will be a communication about how you will provide your email addresses to us before then. But there'll be nothing, there's no possibility to configure MFA Okta at the moment for airlines, or make those requests.
If I remember correctly, if you wish to therefore access RAD information, you can do still through the NOC portal, so it is available there, but not through the NM RAD. Is that correct? That's correct. The other point, I said every 3 hours. My colleague Simon has corrected me. It's every 6 hours that the wind is updated for the purposes of, all of our systems. Any other questions there, Chris? Okay. Anything else in the room? Is that a hand up? No, just measuring something. So in that case, I think we're about 5 minutes behind schedule, so not too bad. We're within the slot tolerance window, I think. So I'm going to introduce Martin Dexel, who is going to give us the airline view on slot swapping.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Martin Dexel. I work for KLM, and I am in a group with basically 6 people. We have a dedicated desk only involved with, mostly involved with ATC issues and informing our dispatchers about what happened, and especially the issues we have lately with Schiphol. Basically what you see is our flight plan, and I won't go into depth how we created our flight list because Nikos did already a lot of this work. You see our KLM and KLC call signs and also the Delta flights. So we look into Delta flights for flights in and out of Europe, and they have a look for our flights in and out of the States. So when we have an issue in the States, we can call their SPT desk, and when their dispatcher has an issue with one of their Delta flights, they may call us and we assist them where possible. So also you see here the split screen. It's easy, like requested, you can remove it if you want. It's a copy from below. It's a testing system, and we'll show you something about slot swapping. So I'm gonna remove this one. Basically the regulations are not completely loaded, I guess, because I don't have any candidates. Oh, sorry, I have to scroll down. So here you see we created a flight list with the slot swaps. So suppose this flight from Bergen arrived too late in Bergen, so I want to provide this one with a worse slot time. In this case, I don't have a candidate. So we'll try the next one. That's a good show off here. Luckily, it's not a presentation, it's just a copy from the live system. Strange that it says yes, but it doesn't show any candidate. So I will proceed with another example then. When you go into, let me see. No. The saved flight list. So you can copy in. No, let me first go this one. You see here a flight with a suspension due to a regulation. When I click on the regulation, it shows up, but flights. Suddenly it's gone. Okay, here it is. So when I put on the flight plan, it shows the route somewhere over here. In this case, it's a flight level restriction. So when you go into the vertical view, you can directly see where the issue is. So it's basically here, you have to stay below this flight level and then start climbing. So although I have not access to my flight plan system, so when I put it here, 3-4, say validate. Now you can see it's all the way. So I'm gonna be below this flight level issue and then start climbing up till 380, and then the flight will be desuspended. So I can do a change in this system, although I need to do it through my flight plan system. Okay, send a change, 340, yes. And then you see that basically when you do a refresh, the suspension should be gone. Now it's a Delta flight, it's not my flight. So I'm going to contact Delta that they should do something, or it needs to have an update of the EOBT or a TOBT adjustment, because basically it could be cancelled by a CDM issue. So you see here, there was a suspension, not reported as airborne. So it's easy to see. Okay. See if I have some candidates. In this case, you see this one, London City to Amsterdam, it has 19-minute delay. If I want to delay this flight, say okay, hit the button, and then you see if you hit this one, you see the new CTOT appearing, so 90 to 33 minutes, and the other one gets a better slot time, so from 21 to 5 minutes. So you go into the slot swap request, make a free text, please swap, and the request was and improve. Why should this be there? Because in-house system, although you want to delay this flight, and basically when you do a slot swap, the one that get a better slot one is frozen. So the slot will stay there, where the one who gets a worse slot time is ready for improvement. So if you want to have a worse slot time because of your rotation, you should, after that, instead of first sending a delay and you don't know what you get back, you can do it with slot swapping, get a worse slot time, and then send an update of the EOBT, so the slot will never be before your new slot time. Also, you know, before your new EOBT. Otherwise, if you don't update your EOBT, it might be that the system provides you with a better slot time, and that you then need to do another swap, or that you need to delay your flight plan, and the same result is that you don't know what you get back. So basically what we do with the slot swaps, if I do the refresh now, and it should be easy. We have a small button here where the eHelp desk status is there. So now you see it's submitted. You can proceed with your regular work, and when it's handed, finally you can see it's under work, or it's approved or unable. So also you see here the opportunities. You can work on that one. We created something. It's easy to see. For example, here you have a KLM. It's airborne already, but you can see this one. It's saying the opportunity, and also in the map. You see it's very easy to see. You copy paste the opportunities into your own flight plan system, and then make a decision, because then you make your own calculation based on your own flight plan system, and you make the decision based on that one. So basically slot swapping is very simple. You can do it through this tool, and we have also, you have the minimize. Yeah. So now I have, this was the regular. No. So you can also swap with other airlines if the situation is there. So basically what you can do is say, okay, I have, this is not assigned yet. If I have a London regulation, for example, this flight to London Heathrow, so you can copy the regulation, go into a flight list, put in the regulation there, and it was 27 something. Where is it? I can't find it anymore. So now you can see, if you have the entry times, you can find your own flight. So I have this 27 mic. You have an entry time of 13:05. So if I want to have a worse slot time, I can see which airport or which aircraft can I swap with. So basically, if I want to have a 20 minutes worse slot time, I can say, okay, my entry times with this regulation, 13:05. I want to have 13:25. So basically, in time, when, because it still has some stars here, so the slot is not communicated yet, so it's more than 2 hours prior to the departure time. If this slot is active later on, and I want to have a slot time of 13:25, I can see with a short flight or a British Airways flight or another British Airways flight, if those flights are also, the slot times are also present, I can do a slot swap with one of those airlines if I have a coordination with them. So swapping with another airline always needs some additional coordination between the two airlines. So you make a phone call, for, in our case, I don't know if BA is in the room, but I can call BA and say, okay, I can offer you a better slot time. Often we get the question, but why is a competitor offering me a better slot time? Because I need the worst slot time. Because when I send a delay, when you send a delay for this flight, you don't know exactly what you get back. So with doing slot swaps, you get back the time that you require for example, for a technical delay. So it could be very easy. We have a coordination with several flights, several airlines, so about 9 or 10. In the near future, this is not required, and I think it's the release from November, like Andy said, that the flight list, you don't need the airlines anymore, so you can swap with any airline you want. So in this case, if the entry time, you can do a KLM flight, in this case, close. If I want to have a worse slot time, I can swap 2 flights. If Air France has the issue with their flight from Paris to Oslo, and they need some additional time, you can do a slot swap with the KLM. So an Air France flight is, Air France ATC desk is calling us and requesting for a slot swap, so we can improve, although it's only 4 minutes. So in this case, you can put in the regulation and see with what other airlines you can change your entry time. And that's most important because it's also possible, often we, and I guess you also, asking slot extensions to the e-help desk. Out of my perspective, every minute ATC delay costs, according to EUROCONTROL, 100 euros. So if you exchange slot times within your own airline, if not possible within your own partner airlines, you can keep this money into your own pocket or in the pockets of your partners. So in that case, you have more or less delay. You have more delay if you require it because of a tech issue, because of a passenger issue, or you can have a less delay when another offers you something. Out of my perspective, when you contact another airline, it should always be that you create a worse slot time for yourself, because there will never be questions from NM that, you know, I'm going to ask for a better slot time on behalf of British Airways. It might raise questions, and when you're penalizing yourself, nobody raises question. Okay, I think the part of slot swapping, I hope this is clear. I can make other examples, but so you see here, the help desk responded that the slot swap was proceeded, and my new delay is now 33 minutes, and the counter is going on. So you have now a 1 by it. You can do slot swaps for 3 times in a row, and then it is ended. So here again, a scenario, flight level scenario. So when you click on the flight plan, you go into flight management. If you go into the map, the vertical view, you see again, you need to be below 340 up to the border with Spain. So it's about to here, and then you start climbing. So you don't need to go into the IEM or the INM to look into what is this scenario all about. Just go into the flight list, and if you created the flight list such that the suspensions are clear, then you can do it easily. Well, the amount of slot swaps, it's about, this is the top 10 for slot swaps request. In our case, this is for 5 months' time, so it's from May until the 1st of October, 1st of May, 1st of October. Basically, you see here 2,500 for Aegean and Sky Express. We are number 3 during summer period. At the end of the year, we did, because I do an analysis for KLM every quarter, every 3 months. So basically, we almost did 3,000 slot swap requests. So say every slot swap request or every slot swap is in a conservative way gains 15 minutes. And then you can say, but when you improve one with 15 minutes, the other one gets 15 minutes worse slot time. How we do it is you can do a slot swap based on commercial reasons. So flights might have a bigger importance because of onboard connections, whatever, crew connections, tail issues, whatever. But on the other hand, if you have a rotation issue and the flight cannot make its previous CTOT, why should you not keep this CTOT within your own airline and only give it away when you can't use it anymore? So basically, this is the 15 minutes. So taking into account 3,000 slot swaps, 15 minutes per swap and 100 euro per minute. So you make a calculation. In our case, our desk, because we have a 6-person desk, like I said earlier, gained about 4.5 million. So this is the opportunity that you can do it yourself. And together with Aegean, we make you a challenge. Who's going to beat us? So something about the GRRT. It's already explained by Nikos. I make a small example. So here you have our flight list. Okay. Okay, here you have our flight list. And you see on the column, like we defined it, where's my mouse? Here the opportunities. There. This is still the opportunities. And then you see the possibility to reroute. So the blue line was the filed route. The opportunity provided by EUROCONTROL is also set the fuel cost, route cost, and the distance. Most of the time we look at the distance, if the distance is shorter, because to make a correct decision, you have to make the opportunity, you have to put it into your own flight plan system to make the correct decision. Because when the wind pattern is only changing in NM system every 6 hours, I think we all have sophisticated flight plan system that have updated a lot, much more. So basically, this was the proposal. For us, it's easy, or for me, it's easy to create on the 2 sides. Where's my mouse? You see it? So you have here the filed route, and here you have the alternative. Oh yeah. There it is. So this is the original filed route, and this is the alternative with the short distance. So you hear 643, 630, 632. Sometimes it's the complete route, and sometimes it's only a portion of the route. So now you can make the decision what kind of portion you need to copy paste into your own flight plan system, and then move on. So we are a Lido user, so we copied the alternative route into our flight plan system, and then the outcomes comes here. So basically, the red button is the original filed flight plan, 1 hour 45 minutes flying time. The alternative offered by GRRT is 1 hour 42. The fuel cost is 27.46, and the alternative is 20 kilo less fuel. And if you are looking into the cost, you see, and that's why the system is a little bit more expensive. So 3,944 euros. Well, the alternative is something about 50 euros more expensive. So this is why you need to put it into your own system, because now you can make the decision, do I going to change the flight plan or not? Based on the arrival time, if the arrival time, because this is the arrival time based on the flight plan, and you see the scheduling is 10:10, so 10:28, so we're already 11 minutes after scheduled arrival time. You may save about three minutes to gain some time, but you need to do it yourself. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Martin. Are we going straight to questions now? We've got another. Say again? Okay, I'll come back to you in a second. So we're going straight into Q&A now. Okay, so I was just clarifying there with the boss. So we'll do a short Q&A now based on Martin's presentation, and then there'll be another short demonstration before we break for lunch. Andy, I'd like you to clarify a couple of the things that Martin was saying. Could you do that, please?
Yeah, thank you. There was something about the next release you mentioned, Martin, about the way you phrased it was that in the next release the system will allow you just to make any slot swap requests with other airlines. I just want to clarify that in the next release all that is happening is that you don't have to specify those airlines in the system to see if you can swap or not. You still need to individually coordinate with any airline you don't have an agreement with. The coordination is not being removed. I will just say that we are looking at electronic ways within the tool to make that coordination to other airlines in a notification and reply mechanism, so we take the phone out of the system. But that won't be in the next release. It's something we're looking at to try to streamline the process to make those requests with other airlines.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. And I'm going to ask Simon from our operations room to make some comments before.
Yeah, good morning. Simon from Flow in NMOC. About the slot swaps, if you want to extend a flight, the example Martin gave, please put in the free text that you're going to extend that flight, okay, or extension of the slot time. Because our procedure currently is if you swap a flight, the one that is going to be getting a worse slot is going to be freed in our system. So it means that it will be improved again when there is a modification in the regulation. So please indicate that you are going to extend that flight, because then we keep it forced so that if there is a modification in the regulation, that this flight will not be improved. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Simon. Okay, so as you can see, it's a powerful tool. It's used by a number of airlines, and maybe we get a competition going to see whether this time next year Aegean and KLM are still up at the top there, or whether any of you guys have taken some of the hints and tips and decided to go to beat them. But it is a powerful tool. There's the ability to coordinate with other aircraft operators as well, partner airlines or others, and I think that's a very powerful and useful functionality, which one day we plan, when we can, to automate to make your lives easier. So I'm going to open the floor now to any questions or comments. There was one down here. Yes, sir.
Hi, Chris from Deutsche Airlines. Regarding the forcing the flight, can we just send an SWM message to block the slot?
Yeah, you can indeed. If you are happy with your slot, you can also send a SIP wanted message. That's the official abbreviation, SIP wanted message. That will keep your slot. However, the system is still trying to improve your flight every minute, like for every flight. But in that status of the flight, you will get a SIP, a slot improvement proposal, which you can then accept or reject.
I think it's also important to clarify, I'm asking here rather than telling Simon, because I haven't been in ops for a long time. Of course, if the regulation that the flight was in got worse, then you would get, we're not going to block and say that's your slot. If it has to get worse, it has to get worse.
Correct.
If we reduce the rate. Okay, thank you. But at least with the SIP wanted one, you will always get a proposal rather than an improvement. Yeah, okay, thank you. Gentleman at the back, sir.
Hi, Rashid Vasani from British Airways. Just a question for Aegean and KLM. Do you face any challenges when using the swap tool?
Martin, can I ask you, and then Nikos, if you wish.
Well, we don't see a lot of challenges because we use it since 2003, so we do it a lot. And it is part of our work in progress, or the way we work. And our in-house tool is indicating when a flight is not able to make its CTOT, because when a ground handler puts in an ED in the system, our system reads out this ED and you see the mismatch between the slot time. So if the ED is beyond of the CTOT, you see that, and then the opportunity is that you're using first slot swapping within the airline. And like the example I have, sometimes we have flights into London that needs an extension. So we're looking into the possibility, and when this flight only have, say, 15 minutes, but the average delay is about 30 or 40 minutes, when you send a delay, you got on top of your delay you need for a technical issue, you get an additional ATC delay. So basically you want to have the ATC delay absorbing the tech delay. So then to get back what you want is better with slot swapping than sending delays.
Nikos, is there anything you'd like to add to that? When you can get the microphone.
Yes, excuse me. For us, the slot swapping is something like a procedure, especially during the summer season. Since we are under a regulation in Athens Airport daily, so we use that usually every day, and it gain for our company much minutes of delay. It's a tool that we use, and it's very helpful.
Nikos.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gentleman next to you.
Hi, it's Sal from British Airways. I just want to double check. If the swap does go through, can it ever be reversed?
No, I think it's, well, Simon, can you?
I would say yes.
Okay, there you go.
The only disadvantage is that your swap counter will be increased.
Good point. Because there is a limit to the number of swaps you can do on any particular flight, which is, I think you mentioned it in the, it's 3, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. Any other questions in the, yes, please.
For small operators where we don't have a lot of, aircraft with the same, where we can swap the slots with, is it a possibility to maybe call the flow, checking, okay, we want the later slot because we without using delay, that they check with aircraft with the same regulations, that ask an improvement request, that can be done like that?
I'm going to come to Simon.
That would extend our service. It could be done, yes, but we have never had it so far. You'll be the first to try it, let's put it that way.
You might get a call from Flying Group one of the days.
Okay.
It could be done, but I think also we need to understand that particularly in the peak summer months, it is very, very busy in our operations room, so it may not be a top priority, but certainly technically it can be done. Any other questions, any other comments? Gentleman at the back.
Is there a time limit to the swap? Let's say you have less than 30 minutes to your slot time. Is there a time limit?
So I didn't hear the question, I'm terribly sorry.
Yeah, if there is a time limit when the system will stop the possibility to swap a flight, that's actually the question. The answer, Martin?
It depends on what kind of airport you're departing off. If a sequence DPI at a CDM airport the TTOT from the sequence DPI is equal to the CTOT. I don't know if I go into depth too much. But then it is refused because the answer is your flight is sequenced from a CDM airport. If you're too close to the slot publishing time, so it's now, what was the clock? Oh, there, 11:22. Suppose the CTOT is, well, with the default taxi time 10 minutes. So you have a CTOT of 11:32, and you want then to have a worse slot time. It might be too close for yourself or for the other airline to react or for your other flights to react. So it needs to be at least some additional time for the system to respond or the e-help desk to respond. So 30 minutes, yeah, like your example, 30 minutes before the slot time is far enough. You can do it something about the calculated off-block time, so slot time minus taxi time, and then 5 to 10 minutes before, that's the latest time roughly.
Okay, thank you. So yes, you have to look at the practical implications of what actually would mean in reality. There's quite a few questions on this. I know there's 4 or 5 online, but I'm going to ask the gentleman behind us there.
Basil from Jet House. I'm jumping on the question from my colleague from Flying Group. That would be really useful for us operator to get somehow a contact list of the different people in the airlines managing the slot swapping. So for example, me as Jet House, I could call Martin to say, hey, I have a flight in Amsterdam. I need a little bit of more time. Can we swap some slots? And for the moment, we don't have the possibility to gather the information about the contact of our peers from other airlines. So would that be a possibility from the NM to provide a contact list to all operators? I know some operators put their phone number in the flight plan. That's what we do because we see that it's useful to, if someone wants to get in touch with us, but it's not a common particularities, I would say.
Okay, thank you. It's an interesting point. We don't always have all of those details, but it's something that we can look at and come back to you on that one. I can't give a definitive answer at the moment, but there strikes me that there is, from the smaller operators, there's a demand for, you want to get involved in the slot swap. Obviously, you don't have the big fleets to be able to do that within your own organizations, but working some way of cooperating with others. So I think that's something we can definitely look into. There was a question over here, I think. Yes, gentleman down there.
So also just to comment on the two colleagues, I think maybe he can use the item 18, the OCC telephone numbers are usually mentioned in item 18 of some of the flight plans.
Yeah.
And for the flying group, maybe from the e-help desk, you can look at the rejected requests that were not accepted for an improvement or turn it down by the e-help desk. Then you can see who can swap the slot with you.
That's also a possibility. Thank you.
On this one,
Thank you very much for that. Yes, go on,
Chris, on this one and the numbers in field 18, a lot of airlines, it's their emergency number, so they wouldn't want contacting on that.
That's also a good point. That's also a good point. But it's evident though that may not be the way to go in the future. But we need to look into how we can perhaps encourage the smaller operators or the operators that from outside of Europe that perhaps don't have such a. I'm getting a thumbs up from Kalita. That's good. So so that we can improve the amount of increase the amount of swapping that goes on, so that the capacity isn't wasted. Chris, is there anything else?
Yeah, there's a few questions. Can I ask one of my own as well?
No, under no circumstances whatsoever.
So I'll ask that first and pretend it was from someone else. First question.
As if I could stop him.
Regarding slot swapping, we saw how to request a slot swap. How does it look like when we're receiving one?
Am I supposed to answer that?
Can we demo it? Can we? It's what does the operator see when they receive a request for swap?
You see, this is what happens when you ask the questions. Oh, you didn't ask that one. Okay.
So, Chris, what do you mean with receiving one?
I believe this is when it's with another airline and you're doing a swap or you're requesting one, what does the other airline see? Or do they just see a slot revision?
Well, they see a slot revision and in the e-help desk, if you have an e-help desk open, the column or the e-help desk itself, the outcome is also it might also have your flight and that was responded. So basically, when we ask an airline to have a better slot time, they get a slot revision with a better slot time, and it might be that the way I do it is most look at the e-help desk and see what the response from EUROCONTROL is, and we act on it.
So, yeah, because you've already pre-coordinated with, for the example you did with British Airways. So,
and this is going to lead into the question I'm going to ask as well.
Okay, I'm going to come back.
Yeah, just for a little bit more clarification, because this came up recently. As the other flight, you won't see an e-help desk request, response, etc., because that is for a flight and not linked to the slot swap. So the visibility is only an SRM or potential slot cancellation, slot revision message. And really the question has come up because it's fine if somebody has coordinated with you, but we've been asked to give some better notification in case somebody hasn't coordinated and you're just getting a slot revision message adding 20 minutes to your slot and you don't know in that message that it's been triggered by someone else being devious with the tool. So it is something we have to give better visibility on.
And if there is going to be some sort of automatic coordination in the future, then that would definitely be something that we'd need to flag up. My colleague from Lufthansa would like to ask a question.
Sorry, guys. When putting in a slot swap request, does it ever happen that the request gets denied? And if so, what are the criteria or the reasons for denying a slot swap?
Simon, can I ask you to address
Well,
that?
if you use the tool will already forbid you to use slot swaps when it's not possible. So, practically speaking, we do not get any slot swap requests that can be rejected.
Okay, because the reason why I asked is because that very thing actually happened, that I was able to, or it offered me a possibility to swap a slot between, like, from one Lufthansa aircraft to another, and I'm like, cool, let me swap it, and it came back unable, and couldn't figure out why. So I was just kind of curious, because if me as the operator, I decide that, okay, between the flight to Bilbao and the flight coming in from Bilbao and the flight that's coming in from Paris are both caught in the same regulation in Munich, and I decide that, okay, I want to give this aircraft the better slot because the other aircraft is running late for whatever reason. I just found that very curious that
Okay,
yeah.
so we've got some operational people here. Nima, would you like to clarify that?
Yeah, there are several reasons how that can happen. So first of all, it's possible that in the meantime, after you submitted the request, something has changed. Then you might get an automated answer from the system. There are other reasons, like, for example, you have two flights that are both in the same most penalizing regulation, but they are in other regulations that are not the same. Now, if you swap, the effect of the slot swap should be transparent and neutral in the most penalizing regulation, but it will not be in any other regulation. So what can happen is that in other regulations there's an over-delivery caused by this slot swap, and then we have to reject the request as well because it would cause an over-delivery. Usually you will get the response then that there's a detrimental effect in another regulation. So that's a possibility as well. There are plenty of cases where the CTOT of a flight that you want to swap has been changed because the flight already got an improvement, and then you will get an automatic unable because the system is checking these things.
Okay, I hope that makes it a bit clearer. It is quite complex, but I hope that makes it a little bit clearer. Any more on online?
Yep. I think this one's been answered. Slot swap will be available for airlines and also private operators, correct?
I think that's, yes,
okay.
that's answered.
When submitting a slot swap with another airline, do the party need to confirm anything to EUROCONTROL before the slot swap is processed?
Does the pilot need to?
No, does the airline need to confirm anything to EUROCONTROL that there's been an agreement made or anything like that?
No,
I'm
we do not
looking
check.
at our gentlemen
Oh,
directly
sorry.
behind you, Tima and Simon and Nicola are all shaking their heads. So I'm assuming the answer to that is no. The three wise monkeys are, are shaking their heads. I can't hear you. I'm a bit.
It's gone off.
There you go.
If in the case a slot swap is done by another party, including one of your flights in the swap, you are unaware, is there an indicator to receive or notify you of it?
I think, didn't we talk about that before? The only notification is the SRM, so and there's no automatic coordination. So
No, if somebody's done a swap, what's the notification? Not just an SRM, there has a slot swap been done.
Gentlemen, can anybody address that? I
No,
don't
in
think there
the
is.
SRM there is no indication that
Yeah.
it was because of a slot swap. No.
So, one last one.
Hang on, Chris.
it's
The
in
other
the op-
Chris, the good
it's in
looking
the op
Chris.
log. Oh yeah, cheers, mate.
No, Chris Wells behind you. Go on.
It's in the operations log.
Right.
So you click on that button, you read it.
So there would be an indication in the operations log, although that's quite complicated to get into. But there's no other indication for the reason that Simon gave. Martin.
The other indicator is when you have the slots, the slot swap in your screen. There's a counter also for the other one,
which would go.
So
up.
if you can see a 1 or a 2 or a 3. So that's the other for the other
That's
part.
another indicator. Okay, one more.
Yeah, my question. Right.
I was hoping we'd avoid
So
this,
it seems to me that we have a very, very good system that a lot of people are interested in using, and it brings great benefit to the network. We don't waste a lot of slots. Now, the current way we do it is that we have to have a discussion with the other airline. Would it not be better if we could have within the NMP an area where you can put your call sign saying, I'm looking for a swap. And then anybody can grab it, you know, first come, first served.
So it's kind of like Tinder, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. But we'd make more use of it. You wouldn't need to contact an operator.
Yes.
It would work better. The process has started.
Swipe
it's working
left
well.
or you swipe right. If there's a swap. And so I've been told. I'm not familiar with the app, obviously. I'm happily married, but I think actually that really. I mean, I'm getting thumbs ups and nods from back here, but that really seems to be some of the would address some of the concerns of our smaller operators and maybe the non-European operators as well, who don't have such opportunities to it. So it's something we can consider, I guess. Andy, have you any immediate thoughts on that, or do we just leave it there for the moment? Let's just leave it, he said. Okay, so it's certainly something that we can consider, and I get the feeling that it would be quite a popular thing if we could do it both technically and procedurally. Okay, I want
now if you all put your hands up, we'll get a lot more force on getting this pushed through, if everyone agrees to it.
Yes.
So who is in agreement with working in that way rather than this way, where you've got to
let's do a
contact
hands
people?
up.
So
Is this
we all
something
know
that-
a show of hands works.
Show of hands, then. Is this something that might be important to people, might be useful to people? Yes, it's not quite as popular as you thought, but it certainly is something that I would say we're about 50-50 on that one, so this is maybe something we can look at and consider. Andy?
I'm just a little bit concerned with what Chris said, that this would replace the current mechanism. Hands up for who?
Oh, that's Chris.
Okay, so Chris didn't say that. We'll review the VAR in a minute.
Definitely offside.
but just to clarify, this would be an enhancement to the current mechanism.
Indeed. Yes, and there is a bit of an issue here because I know with the three Chris's that I can see personally here, so we do have a bit of a not that there's any problem with having too many Chris's, of course, but it does get a bit complicated. Okay, we are going to have to wind this up in a moment because Boris is desperate to do his presentation, and then we want to break for lunch. So I'll take a couple more. The gentleman in the white shirt, sir.
Just having maybe the possibility of having such notification as the one we receive when we send a slot wanted message, like the slot proposal for improvements. When an operator wants a slot swap, just basically send a notification to the airline that can maybe like it and just accept or not.
Not a bad idea. Again, we may need to come up with another acronym because a slot wanted message SW. Well, I don't think we're using that. But yes, they're definitely something that we can consider. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. Could you please clearly explain, may I request swapping slots with other company if we don't have direct cooperation between our companies internal? Because I'm a little bit confused. If, for example, I want to extend my slot and improve Martin's, he will receive SRM, correct?
Potentially, yes. But Martin, can I come back?
Or SRM or slot improvement proposal. So in any case, he will receive benefits. Or,
well, if there's
or
an
I'm wrong.
indication, because the rule is that there need to be communication between the two airlines. So if you just say, okay, I want to have a worse slot time, so I'm going to improve a KLM flight, you don't know what the rotation of this flight for me is. So it might be that I still need the slot time, or I cannot accept the total improvement you're offering me. So basically, you always need to contact the other party to do a slot swap. And if you call me and said, can we do a slot swap with this flight? I have such a big amount of flights into Amsterdam, so I can offer you another. So you offers me 20 minutes. So I said, sorry, I cannot have 20 minutes. I have another flight, so I can give you 25 minutes or 15 minutes, something like that. So basically, you're facing a little bit more ATC delay than you required, but it's not as much as when you send a delay. So basically, there always need to be communication between the two parties.
So I think your original question was...
Yeah, but I mean, isn't SRM and SIM slot improvement message proposal, isn't it enough coordination between us in such case? Or what is the problem?
No, it would need
What
to...
is the issue with, because as I understand, if you don't frozen the slot, you will just receive SRM, correct?
Correct.
If you,
but if you want to improve my slot time, you don't know the rotation of my flight. So
yeah, that's correct.
So when you say can I improve your flight with 20 minutes because you need 20 minutes additional delay, it might be that I cannot accept the 20 minutes because it's too much. I need this slot time what is published for my rotation.
So that
but when colleagues from EUROCONTROL sends me SRM, they also don't know my rotation, correct?
Well, that's also true, but we need to make sure, in this particular case, there needs to be a communication between the two.
Yeah, I understand.
We are talking about looking at ways to automate that coordination, but at the moment I'm afraid it needs a pickup of the phone to make sure that that you understand that there is an agreement between you. There doesn't need to be any sort of contractual agreement, but there does need to be.
And I think this opportunity or this situation is a good moment to because you all know your competitors in your area of interest. You might find them in the room, so it might be a good opportunity to exchange contact details during this session.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you. I'm going to close this
Great
off
idea,
now.
thank
I
you.
know there's still interest. I know there are still questions. I think this is a perfect opportunity, as Martin said, for when we go outside for lunch, a bit of networking, bit of number swapping so that we can maybe firm up some of those things. But what I'd like, a really useful and interesting debate, that one, and I think a few hints for the future for EUROCONTROL, for NM to look at. What I'm going to do now is, just before lunch, I'd like to introduce Boris, who's going to give us a bit more insight into the opportunities in the group rerouting tool that we have. Over to you, Boris.
Thank you, Chris. So this time is not about the badges. We're going to do it later after this session at the end of the day. So just a quick recap of what's already very well stressed by Aegean and KLM. The way how they are using opportunities in their operations, it's quite similar. And they managed to demonstrate the practical aspects of it. So again, I'm reminding everybody in the room, what you see, this is a test system. So the values showed in the opportunity.
Boris, just give me a second.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just a little bit of murmuring went up there. I know we're all getting hungry and stuff, but this is important stuff. So if you wouldn't mind just paying Boris a little bit of attention.
We'll continue. Thank you. Yeah. The values here are exaggerated, so this is something we pushed just to show the different, to have a good examples actually here to show. So what I'm going to highlight today, we'll try just to complement already said, mentioned by KLM and Aegean about the possibilities of the opportunities. So what you see here, it's a heads-up information to the dispatcher on the potential savings that can come from the opportunity. Immediately to explain, we discussed yesterday about RRP messages normally created by the NMOC to guide you out of the specific airspace currently disrupted with high delays. Opportunities are offering one or more routes, while the RRP is always communicating one route. And with the RRP, we are also booking a slot. With the opportunity, we are just indicating to you the other alternative option is available. So this is very important. When you see certain values here that an alternative in the moment of calculation could save some delay, it is just linked with the moment when the system identified that opportunity. So it's up to the airlines actually to validate if this information is still valid and realistic. So how we achieve those costs actually depends on the values that we are associating within back end of our system using the concept of predefined criteria or the templates. By default, every flight plan submitted to our NM system will be eventually rerouted by at least one setup of criteria or one template called generic. But for advanced users, those who would like to better control what's given by the system, we can accommodate and we can create a customized template with the different parameters behind. So one flight can receive an opportunity from at least one or more templates. And some airlines have 6, 7 different templates covering potential routing options. So this value, as I said, is estimated based on the assigned cost values within particular template, is also highlighting the highest achieved savings among all listed alternative options identified by the system. So I took one flight just to show it quickly. Normally, when there is a symbol of opportunity available, you can go into the details using the flight management tool, or just selecting the hyperlink under the opportunity column. The system will immediately guide you to the table you see here. So what do we see? Just quickly, very important information. The first one is original route currently validated by the operator or filed. And then we see that for this flight, system identified at least 2 times 5, or actually, 5 opportunities. The first package is coming from one template explaining the reasons behind, are linked with the aircraft operator specific needs, and the second package could be could include a different assigned costs or even the conditions that needs to be fulfilled by the system before searching for the opportunity. Here is the moment when the execution happened, when the opportunity was calculated. We see the off-block time of this flight is around 1400, 1435, and the first or the latest calculation we had for this flight was at 8 in the morning. So we started with this, and then there was a second execution. If an aircraft operator has more templates, the flight can be captured by many different opportunities. Okay, the rest is quite clear, that and the dispatcher can go into details, analyze, and finally provide the feedback. We already had a question about the feedback. In case somebody is analyzing that route, they can give a bit more details why the route is good or not. The feedback can be submitted, but also can be removed. And why this is important, because there is immediate effect that the indicator of that opportunity will disappear until the next execution of the tool. So if system managed to find a better route, the indicator will come back. For those who don't want to see opportunities to be disturbed by the information, or if they believe that their dispatcher should not follow any more opportunities for that flight during the day, they can just disable an opportunity for that flight. So you see that opportunity indicator is removed. Okay, sometimes we are able to assess a bit more than 2 times 5 in this case. So the operator can select show all results, and you can see all the different options identified by the NM system, and on the map they are visualized with green color. So as said, feedback will have immediate effect. So this particular route string, route option, after feedback is given for that item 15, will not be offered anymore to the operator through the group routing tool, opportunity tool so-called, and also will not be offered through the route propose function if the flight is manually rerouted. The information about the feedback you always can have in the oplog. So in this case, I didn't submit it, so yeah, just to go back. Okay. How you can set up your template? You cannot do it directly from the system. You need to contact the NM Flight Efficiency team, and the detailed and contact information are available in the booklet we mentioned yesterday that is uploaded to the events website. So if you have a need to go into more details, to create a template for your operator, to consider different use cases. The use case can be, for example, create the opportunity only when this particular military airspace is available for flight planning. This is something that we can do. And then all the information that we keep in that particular setup remains confidential on the NM side. So this is in short, and I'm happy to take any questions that might come on this topic, not blocking people from a lunch.
Thank you, Boris. So Boris has given us an overview on the opportunities, the group rerouting tool, and how it can be useful. I think we're quite familiar now from the various presentations about how we can access it and what we can do there. Are there any immediate comments or responses in the room on that? I don't see anything. Okay, is there anything online, Chris? Okay. So I think it's been covered quite comprehensively. So I think most of you now should be able to access those opportunities when you wish to do so. What I suggest then, Boris, is that we break for lunch. Let's break for lunch then. We reconvene at 1300. Is that correct? Okay. Please take the opportunity to visit the desks. Please take the opportunity to speak to your colleagues, competitors, dreadful enemies, whatever, swap numbers, etc., etc. Enjoy your lunch. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So we had a good session this morning discussing slot swaps, and the various possibilities. There are some really good ideas, particularly from the smaller operators or non-European operators, how they could get more information to help them to participate in that as well. Some really useful stuff there. Nikos gave us a really good demonstration from the aircraft operator point of view, and I was very happy with the level of interaction that we got. I think those two sessions really sparked some good conversations and debate, which is always what we're after. The post-prandial, post-lunchtime sessions are always maybe a little more challenging as everyone settles in after a good lunch, and I hope you did lunch well. So we've got a couple more sessions today, and I'd like you to again, please use the QR codes to make sure that questions are asked there, or of course, please don't fear to raise your hand in response to anything, and it can be on any subject. Obviously, we've got some presentations here, but if there's anything you still haven't raised yet and you still want to, please put it in there. Please note it down, because we will have a bit of a wrap-up session later on. But in the meantime, our colleague from Air France, Francois, is going to give us a quick, presentation on the flight dispatch and ATM cell in Air France. Over to you, Francois.
So hello everyone, I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for having me here. I have to add that besides Air France activities, I'm also the president of the French Airline Dispatcher Association, which is a FRADA, and on that aspect, we support UFALDA and HIFALDA. So let's dive into the presentation. The aim of this presentation is to present you the way we work on that, on the ATM part, but also on the tool that we developed in Air France, which is called Atmos. So just to show you a bit of our organization, there are long-haul dispatchers that operates manually on any flights, which are divided in eastern area and western area. Medium haul dispatchers and ATM people, which are also dispatchers. So if you add all of these people, you are above the number of we are, because ATM dispatcher are operating at around 50% on ATM position, and 50% as a long-haul flight dispatcher, and it's the same for medium-haul dispatchers that are sometimes working on the shift on the medium-haul, but also on long-haul flight dispatcher on another shift. So before, there was the ATM flight dispatcher. When I say before, we begin this ATM cell in around 2017. Doesn't mean that before that we do nothing, but we were not so organized. So we decided to organize it under the Raphael Erol, if you know him. We decided in 2017 to to organize an ATM sales with a trained dispatcher, especially trained on air traffic management. So at that time, for example, we had a lot of information, around 10 screens, 2 computers, 2 keyboards, THMI, and etc. So it was a lot of information coming to the flight dispatcher concerning, example from the THMI, from the NOP portal, from Milor is Air France tools, Lido, because we use Lido, and other data coming from other sources. After, with the help of Atmos, we only have 4 screens, 1 computer, 1 keyboard, and an iPad. And towards the best level of performance, we gain in ergonomics, and we organize a B2B connection with the NM, which is very interesting for us to have a lot of data. It was tied to innovation and partnership with EUROCONTROL and E18, the innovation hub, so that we could have tools streamlining. And Atmos, our tool, is in the center, is used by the at the beginning by the ATM dispatchers. We are connected, obviously, to the NM, to Air France data, to other sources of information, obviously, and we use it to intra-OCC communication, and also it is obviously tied to Lido. So in the center, you see Atmos. Atmos is used to gather alert, and we use it as an anticipation tool, obviously. It's in the center of our communication, our information. We can simulate, find solution. There is a graphical visualization, like in the NMP Flight. But we also use it to gather big data and also KPIs to follow what is done during a regular day shift. This is due to a partnership, which is already said, between EUROCONTROL and us via a B2B data exchange, and also, obviously, APIs between Air France IT system and Atmos. The upper part of Atmos is seen on the screen. You've got some alert screens, some flight lists, some regulation and measure tied to this regulation, some information on airports. We've got a route generator, a dashboard for the flight dispatcher working on ATM position, and we also have the nav data, which gave us information on environment, the Paris area traffic count, because this is our hub, and also the NM dashboard, which is like a mere copy of what is done on the NMP Flight, and Scream on the AIM information, also a part on the NM help desk, which is implemented inside Atmos. We've got also some settings, obviously, the Zulu time and the status of the network, the IT network. We decided when we used the design, Atmos, we decided to create some user profiles, which is in the settings. So there is the main goal of this user profile is to provide the right information at the right time to the right users. We create different profiles based on each user's need. So it means that we don't want the regular flight dispatcher to have access to all of the data that an ATM dispatcher has access. So the ATM is based on 2 roles, on coordinator and flow manager. The flight dispatcher have got a profile for medium or long haul flight. We've got a view for the dispatch supervisor, for the fleet manager also, and we will see that just after, and for obviously a tool administrator view. An example of two alert screens for different users' profile. On the upper part, you will see the flight dispatcher user profile. Each line is an alert, is a flight, and it is based on alert. If you don't have any alert, don't have any issue, you won't see your flight. You see only the flight that has got something to say to you. Flight planning alert, you have alert selection based on the Lido offices. If you are familiar with Lido, you know that we have offices. So the tool is designed around these offices. You have obviously ED, DLE, reject, flight suspension. We also have an alert in case of no flight, in case also on discrepancies between the OFP and the ATC flight plan. Some alerts tied on our need for last validity, for example, and obviously the efficient route opportunities are put in evidence. In the lower part, you will see an ATM dispatcher view with a lot of more information together. For example, you've got an easy filtering system. You can see, I try to put my arrow, okay, I don't see if your arrow is visible. No, it's not visible. On the upper part, you have the red bullet with the numbers inside. So this is the push button so that you can easily filter the views that you have. For example, you have a button for last validity, for CTOT, so you know that you have a regulated flight. You also have a priority flight. This is a special mechanism that we introduced in Atmos for curfew, flight suspended flight, etc. You have priority flight. We see two priority flights on this view. This is the green part on the left side of each flight number. These are two priority flights. In fact, you've got we'll see that just after, but we have a priority flight and a priority rotation, which is tied to a priority flight due to knock-on effect on each flight. You have curfew alerts, aircraft rotation through Gantt chart, slot swap opportunities, obviously. These are the yellow marked on the right side. You know that these flights are swappable. Rerouting opportunities and RRP, SIP, departure and arrival delay, shared situational awareness system, and more. Ergonomic design and wide situational awareness. We can display on the regulation menu all of the measures that are in place in the sky in Europe. This is a dynamic map with vertical and temporal cursor. Donc, we have access to the whole measure and actual measure and future measure. And we also have the complete information concerning the impact on FL, on sector, on demand and capacity. We've got also the average delays, the flight list on the right side. And by this way, by using the cursor, you can change the time of the day and see what is in action on the sky. Complete flight data, a quick access to the whole flight data and management feature. Once you click on a line, on an alert, for example, one of these lines, you click on it, you arrive on this type of screen. You've got all of the IFPS and ATFCM management, the little push button that you see in the upper part. You can delay, you can cancel refile, cancel arrival. Arrival message is, you can do it by this, with this screen. You've got the syntax already inside. You have the flight data and schedule information. There is a Gantt chart in the upper part, so you can follow one aircraft during the day. This is a decision-making tool that is available, and you've got a trajectory optimization feature. So you can, from this screen, you can slot swap. You can use the what if, and you can also, if you don't have any route, you can use the reopen route generator. On the right side, you see the impact of the regulation on your schedule. On the lower right side, you have the regulation, which is, on this case, an en route regulation. We have also the figures concerning your delay, concerning the mean delay and the maximum delay of this regulation. You also have the vertical and the lateral view of the regulation concerning your flight. So you know why you are impacted. High value flight prioritization. So we decided to create a list inside Air France, a list of priority flights. So it means that we have to inject this list in the tool. So natively, the tool handles this list and will put an icon, this is a green crown, on the priority flight of the day. By this way, the whole line, the whole day will be a priority issue for you. And on this example, on the right, you have the Alpha Fox Romeo 76 Sierra Papa flight, which is not the last flight, but the other one, which is the priority flight. But we can see that at the beginning, the first flight, which is impacted by a regulation concerning arrival, this is the red part that you see on the flight. And you see the knock-on effect on each turnaround time. You have the red drawings. That means that your turnaround time are all constrained by the first regulation that is impacting you. And at the end, you can have a view on the situation on your priority flight. By design, this flight will appear up in the list. Curfew management, an example of the curfew management. So the same way, if you've got a regulation on a flight concerning an aircraft that is flying different destination, but at the end is impacted by a curfew. The curfew is the red rectangle that you see at the end of the Gantt chart, and you see that you've got an aircraft that is impacted by a curfew. Okay. So you can act as soon as possible on all of the previous flight. And you see that you've got a regulation on the Air France 600F, which is a regulation en route. And you see the knock-on effect the same way on each turnaround time that push your last flight in the curfew. So if you find a solution on this flight, you will solution the curfew problem, okay? So this flight is swappable. If you have a look on the upper right, you see a little yellow rectangle with SW, means it's swappable. By this way, the flight dispatcher will be able to select the slot swap. So on the lower left part, you see a big rectangle. Red rectangle. This is the solution, the swap proposed to this flight. So we have a column with the flight impacted and the different flight proposed to make the swap, and you have directly the impact in terms of times on your flight. So if you select a flight, you will land on this view, and on this view you can compare the two flights with the swap, without the swap. For that, you have a little button on it, and you can push on it, and you can see all of the Gantt charts that are moving and showing you that you can remove or not your flight from the curfew. This is the case. So this presentation is, this view, shows you that the last flight that was in the curfew is not in the curfew anymore, because this is the simulation of the swap, okay? On the lower part of the Gantt chart, you see the other flight that you will degrade, okay? And you can see if you can do the swap. As was saying Martin before, you have to have a view on, is it possible to swap or not? Is it acceptable for the other flight to be swapped or not? Okay. By this way, you see both flights, and you can assess if the swap you want to make is effective or not. So if you valid directly the swap, that will generate the correct request in the help desk directly. And on the upper part, you will have an alert as soon as you've got the response and as soon as your swap is accepted. So this is quite a three-click action. Just information, click on the swap, select the right file and accept it or not. The rerouting, in the Air France organization, this is the ATM flight dispatcher that are finding all of the rerouting proposed to our flight dispatcher. So our ATM guys and girls will find solution constantly to other flight dispatcher, and they distribute the solution to every dispatcher. On this screen, we see that the ATM found a solution for a flight that was overflying Bordeaux, and it was caught in a regulation. So the decision, the what if sorry gave us a solution. The selection of the solution is done by just transmitting the new flight plan, the new case 15, and by pushing on the transmit, it is generating a new alert that will target the flight dispatcher in charge of this flight. And the flight dispatcher will see the alert that is in the bottom of the screen. This is a rerouting ATM alert, and he will have the new route that he can apply to it or not. So this is the flight dispatcher that will decide at the end if he will apply or not this proposal of rerouting, transmitting by the ATM guy. On this screen, on this alert, you will see a little on the far right, a little rectangle, green rectangle, a bit flashy RRT. The message rerouting ATM, and on the left there is a little just after CDG CMN, sorry, there is an icon, and as soon as he click on it, he will see the new route that is proposed, and he can copy it in Lido, and just recompute it and change. ATM dashboard, team challenge. We've got a button, a menu, sorry, just for just for showing the big numbers of the day. So how many swaps did you do on this day? How many rerouting? How many minute gains? So based on 100 euros per minute, it could be very interesting for the flight dispatcher themselves to see, and for the ATM guys to see what has been done today or what has been done during my shift. This could be used as a team challenge between shift. And also for the management, we also have some KPIs on what has been done during a day or a shift, or during a month or like that. Efficient route opportunity, GRRT. The same, we've got an alert, OPP, on the far right, green OPP message. You click on the flight and you see a route that is proposed. On this information, you can see that you have again, so you can copy the route directly. There is a button to just copy, and just put it in Lido. On this case, time saving 7 minutes, fuel saving 200 kilos, and per year in 2024, for example, 1,000 tons of CO2 savings by just using OPP available for flight dispatch. As it has been said before, you can have different templates. So I'm not sure, but I think we have 2 templates based on minimum time. So we just wanted to have opportunity route that give us, for example, in one template, at least 3-minute gain. And the other template, we accept changing the SIDs and stars. And in the same template, ask for 7-minute minimum gain. So that each opportunity route that is proposed to a flight dispatcher, by default, would be interesting for us. Most of the time, because Lido gives us always some surprise. The reality, in fact, but the use of AIXM data is used, for example, just putting by hand an airspace or regulation and so on, and have all of the information tied to that. A scenario like that, you can explore everything with that. You see if there is there are graphical information, this is represented, and textual information is given at the end in the lower part of the screen. And it's finished for me, and thank you for listening to me. If you have questions, you're welcome.
Thank you, Francois. A really comprehensive overview of the tool that you've developed. It has some similarities, obviously, it's been fed with some of the same data as the NMP Flight, but also additional data as well. We also have some of our B2B experts in the front row here from EUROCONTROL, so if you wish to address any questions about that business-to-business data exchange, then we have that opportunity now. So are there any immediate comments or reflections? I'm going to go straight to Joanna, in fact, from our B2B department.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ioana Coliban. I'm in charge of data exchange and B2B domain. Thank you, Francois, for this presentation. It's a pleasure to see that such a beautiful application has been built on the NMB2B services. Indeed, that's the second topic of today. The B2C has been talked for the last yesterday and this morning. This is an application on the NMB2B services. A challenge, as our colleagues from the British Airways asked, what was the challenge implementing the NMB2B services on your side?
So, as I said before, we started to work on it. I don't remember exactly if it was in 2017 or 2018, but at that time, I think we were one of the first that was using the B2B possibility given by EUROCONTROL. So the challenge was for us for setting in place what has never been done as far as I know, and also debugging sometimes, helping EUROCONTROL finding some issues or like that. So the main issue were on the IT side, in fact, because we, as flight dispatcher, we knew that what we wanted. Okay? So the main issue was the IT side and starting the B2B.
Thank you. May I continue? Something nice to remember about our collaboration. Indeed, I recall the first meeting with Rafael, the big boss, and starting, putting the requirements in place to map the backend system into the B2B services. It was quite a challenge on our side. With you close to us as implementing as such, we did notice many issues, bugs, but something nice to remember about that period and even now, these days. Thank you.
Can we have the microphone?
This was a very interesting period for us because this was just the beginning or just after the beginning of the ATM sale. So it was quite a new job to be such organized and very well trained because we We had been to ATM, to FMPs, even we've been to the Innovation Hub playing the air traffic controller role, just to be sure, just to integrate the fact that having maybe 35 or 40 flights an hour in my area is a big challenge as a human being to cope with. Okay, so for us to integrate all of this information, talking to controllers, to FMPs, was very interesting. And concerning the integration, the arrival of B2B was challenging. As you remember, we had around 10 screens with a lot of alerts. At the end, the promise was only 4 screens and very concentrated, integrated information. So it was the first view around 2019 of Atmos were a good remember for me.
Thank you. And in fact, I'm going to put it back to you now, Joanna. So Air France had some challenges with B2B, but you obviously, as you were developing, Air France was one of the first customers, clients, if you like. How have you been able to learn from Air France and subsequent ones and streamline that process? And what are the challenges that you've faced?
We are learning every day in the B2B because we have the clients on our side are all airports, airspace user, NSPs, FMPs, software developers developing application on behalf of the operational stakeholders. So we are learning every day, and not from the technical perspective, but from business part as well. There are questions this morning about the condition on the slot swapping. That's a back-end information, and we share that information with the external to be able to put the same business rules on their application. So every day we are learning. And talking about Air France is the first one being able to send us aircraft operator position report. I'm changing now my hat from the B2B through the data exchange, and that's increased the predictability on our side. So this collaboration is in both ways. First of all, the clients, the B2B clients consume the data, build their application, but in the same time, they are sharing data with us for us and them to improve our predictability, flight trajectory, and so on, which is reflected in the B2C application or on our side in NMOC, the application we are using. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Joanna. So it really is a two-way street there. It's not just a case of us giving you data. Your information is also useful to us and helps to enhance our systems as well. I think that's very, very important. So are there any other thoughts or questions, comments in the room?
I just have something to add.
Yes, Francois.
Concerning the previous view on SWAP, because SWAP was for us a challenging subject, and because of that we organized the data, and now it's very easy to swap. I just had a question that I take the opportunity to ask. Why is there any limitation of 3 swaps only?
Boom. I can give you the mic so you can drop it if you like, Francois.
It's a good question, but yeah, it's been asked before. 3 is the maximum, and not to be overflooded, there's not really a real reason for it.
Yeah, but if I have an opportunity to another swap with gaining time, why is there this limitation? I'm not flooding you, but I'm trying to gain something.
Yeah.
I think
there's no answer.
No detrimental effect if both parts is okay. Most of the time we are swapping between Air France or Transavia or sometimes KLM or Delta. But why 3 only? Is it a big issue if we stop this rule or not?
I believe it's historical in as much as when we first started doing
Could we remove this part?
Yeah, so I think there's absolutely no reason why we can't review it. I'm not going to suggest that we just go, no, we're not going to do it anymore. Andy, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, I think after the discussion this morning, during the break, I had a few conversations about the subject, the question about why do we have to ask when swapping, and the the other airlines getting an advantage. It's the same as when our system automatically moves that flight to an advantage, that we don't ask the airline if you want a better slot. So I think that is something we have to start discussing, that decision, those rules, and here we can put that in the same discussion. My plan is to set up a group, invite some to attend to online discussions on this subject to try to improve the whole slot swapping, including Chris's proposal of the bucket of potential swaps. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, I think that's. I think these things do tend. When we introduce something, we always tend to be quite cautious. Coming, from the ATM background, we tend to be cautious on these things. We should review it, and I think there's lots of different ways we can look at that. So, with Andy's response there, I think we'll take that on board. Are there any other comments on that, or in fact on the slot swapping in general, as well as? I thought so. Martin, sir.
Well, it can be an agenda point for the ODSG and at the AOG.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're the chairman.
Yes, thank you for that. Unfortunately, I've just closed the agenda for the next meeting, but okay. But yes, these are all things.
There is an AOB.
Yes, there is an AOB, and I think it is something that. Well, I think the AOB would be for us to look at it, and I think Andy's already said that we will look at it. So I think it's not something we can give a quick answer to there, because of course it's not just from the aircraft operator point of view. We have to look at it from our operational perspective as well and see what the impact of that might be. So, but I think it's the vibe I'm getting here is definitely that it's something that we should be looking at, and I'm quite happy to do so. So, are there any other comments? Any other feedback? Chris, is there anything online?
A couple on slot swapping, especially around aircraft speeds.
Okay, can I come back to that? Yeah. The gentleman at the back there has a quick question.
Hi, it's regarding the alert on your dashboard regarding the opportunity for the optimum route efficiency. I just want to understand, like, how does your system give you the alert, whether it compares from the FBM and through EUROCONTROL, or what is the mechanism? Because my understanding is I'm under the impression that the flight planning system, in your case as Lido, it does consider already the cheapest cost route. So how does they find the opportunity for the more efficient route?
I think it was about. Go on, sorry, Andy.
If I'm not wrong, you're saying that Lido has optimized, given them best route for cost. How is there now another route found by a system that gives a cheaper route? Yeah, that's as I understood the question.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Sometimes Lido is not optimized, and we asked them why, and they said to us firstly that the European sky is becoming too complex. So sometimes they don't find a solution. But you have another regular case where you have an opportunity that is possible. It depends, but it could be a military area that is free, becoming free just minutes before, and so that it's becoming an opportunity. Okay, and it's a regular source of opportunity, but not only, but okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. Are there any follow-up questions in the room? Any comments that anyone would like to make? I'm not seeing anything at the moment, so I'm going to go to Chris to take up a couple more questions before we move on to the next item.
Does slot swap, in a slot swap, does it matter on the aircraft type, i.e. an A330 versus Learjet? And is the category of the aircraft matter there, for the separation purposes? Does that all accounted for in the algorithm of slot swap?
Not as far as I am aware. I'm looking at my operational colleagues. There's a bit of head shaking. Yeah, I'm getting 2 head shakes there. Am I getting a third? I think I'm getting a third. So, no is the answer to that.
Okay, and the other question was, is there an issue to swap slots if the flights are impacted by multiple regulations, and how does that work?
I think we discussed that a bit this morning, but it would be a good idea maybe if Simon or one of the colleagues could, or Nicola, whichever, can answer that.
It's based on most penalizing regulation, first of all. Then if other regulations are into play, help me out on that, guys.
Simon started it, Nicola, you finished.
So for the slot swaps, we always do the network impact assessment.
if there are multiple regulations, we need to ensure that there is no overload in any other regulation. So if it's only one, it's straightforward, and most probably your request will be accepted. However, if there are more regulations into play, we need to check first if there is no overload in other ones. That's why, in case we refuse the slot swaps, the most common answer you will receive that this is due to the detrimental effect in another regulation. So the most penalizing one that these two flights are sharing is fine, but somewhere else downstream the flight profile there is an overload, and that's the reason why we cannot accept it.
Thank you, Nicola. So I think that's clear. Anything else, Chris? No? Okay, so I think we've managed to cover the stuff from Francois and his tool. We had some information from Joanna as well about the various challenges. Are there any other questions there? We also covered a bit on slot swapping, probably left over from this morning's session, so I'm happy to take any further questions on that. Does anybody have anything else they would like to say? Any comment? I'm not seeing anything. Nothing online, so I think thank you very much, Francois.
Thank you for having hear me, and welcome if you want to discuss outside.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. The next agenda item is a demonstration or an overview from our ATC colleagues in DFS. So I'd like to ask Patrick to come up and give us his presentation. Just indulge us for a moment. We're doing very well on the agenda, but again, please don't feel that you can't ask questions on any subject at all. We've got this presentation, and we'll have a Q&A after that, and then we've got a bit of a wrap-up. So please, if there's something burning, something that you've heard earlier on in the either yesterday or today, that's still niggling you in the back of your mind that you really want to get straightened out, no matter how dumb that question may appear to you, I've learned plenty today and yesterday, and I really should know most of this stuff. So if I'm still learning, everybody else will be as well. So please don't worry about your questions. Just make sure we get whatever it is that you want to know out so that we can answer it for you. But before we do that, I'm going to introduce Patrick from DFS to give us the view from air traffic control. Patrick, over to you, sir.
Yeah, so thank you for having us here as non-dispatchers. We're honored to be here. Just to help you, my name is Patrick Dederis. I'm an air traffic controller from Karlsruhe, UAC. So from the DFS, from German air traffic control provider. But I'm also working together with my colleague Peter in the back off, doing operations and procedures, supporting RAT availability, structuring, and also with Chris and the network manager, we're trying to support dispatchers or route filing, route finding, since we know that the European network is complex and complicated, and even computers don't always find the best route on their own. And when we see stuff in daily ops or going through with tools or with the NM app as well, this supports us in finding things, yeah? So I'd like to state off first point, the key point is this presentation is not about blaming anybody, yeah? This is about communication, information, and cooperation. That's what we're aiming for. We know that when it comes to flight plan adherence, which will be a topic here, there are so many factors contributing to, is the aircraft at level, is he on his route? And we also know that our own controllers are also part of that, yeah? That's, I'll come back to that part later on in the presentation. We know that it's an educational thing, but I'll get to that later on. Since not all are so familiar with the European airspace here, I would just like to have a little pictures about how the situation is. European airspace, maybe if you compare it, it's like a city center of an old European town. Yeah? There are lots of streets and lots of possibilities, but in summer, when the traffic level rises, it gets quite complex and complicated. Yeah? We have lots of layers, lots of different things, and just maybe as a comparison I think is quite good to see what the situation is. And of course, we know that, and we're working on it, but even construction, yeah, changing air traffic control sectors and so on, it takes time, yeah. We have safety. This is for us as air traffic control always paramount. Safety is always paramount. That's why we will also later on, when I refer to capacity default values, this is always based on safety. How much traffic can an air traffic control sector take? This may be different depending on the situation. We've heard it in the last days, yeah, weather, turbulence, military complexity coming in. Yeah, of course, we have the new situations. We have military traffic rising again, military airspace is growing again. This is all contributing to network impact. So let's just, I'll just jump. The PowerPoint is more as a reminder, so don't worry, I'll just jump to this point. This is a picture of how the flights are displayed in Karlsruhe UAC. Yeah. For those who don't know, Karlsruhe UAC, upper area control center, lowest level 245, but it has different steps going up to 315 in the center of Europe, covering almost all of German airspace in the upper. So primary location, yeah, that's why we have lots of flights. Last year, I think it was around 1.8 million flights. We have summer days over 6,000 flights per day. And of course, also enough regulations. All of the local carriers know it. But as I said, we're working on it. As you see, we have a head symbol, which is connected up here. We made a random call sign because we didn't know how openly we're communicating here with what is behind it. You have an entry level, and then you see the planned entry level. And the way it's written shows our controllers that this flight is deviating from the planned level, from the network manager filed route. Same goes for the exit level, it's also different. Yeah, here you have speed, waypoint he's flying to, and a squawk change necessary, just as an example, so don't worry about too much about it. With a single click, our controllers can see the network manager route. It's displayed down here. Just if you're curious, the data here is ADSB data, which we can also read out or put in the labels, which helps us see selected level, speeds, headings, and so on. So also in this kind of strip, which is a bit old, on the side screen we have that. We can also see relevant data of aircraft type, from where to where, routings, under control sector, and so on, but I don't want to get bothered with too much details here. One of the problems is when we introduced this, let's call it uninvited guest tool, which we could see, we didn't have two clear statements what the controllers should do or shouldn't do. Because the controller said, well, I have to take care of my traffic levels, and now I'm getting additional workload that I should take care of what is filed, what didn't file. So it was hard to say you should all do this and you should never do that. It's a bit of a gray zone movement because after all, we always have deviations anyway due to traffic and safety reasons. Yeah? If its level is blocked, the level will be blocked, so we'll be at a different level. And this is marginal deviations which will always be part of air traffic control and which are accepted. So we will never be 100%. This will not work. The amount of traffic is too high. So only have maybe 5 flights in a sector that would work, but not with the amounts we're dealing with traffic in Europe at the moment. Also, we know that even when you are filing a flight plan, there might be changes still from loading and so on, fuel loading that can also impact on performance. Will he make this level in time? Will he need 20 more minutes or so on? Yeah, but these are all operational deviations, which I would say which are acceptable. We can handle that, and which will always be part of the business. What we're always aiming for is, especially with Chris and so on, we're trying to find structural differences, yeah? Where we have reoccurring cases. And then we want, that's why I said communication, we ask, why is this happening? Are we doing it, or why? What's the reason behind it? Yeah, the more information that we share with each other, the better we can be prepared for next time. Also now what we're doing is we're doing a lot of testing with Peter, because with modern systems, I mean, they're all getting better before, trajectory performance, data systems. So what we're doing when we're trying to build new procedures, we're trying to make these procedures work from the start. So we're testing and trying to align the different systems. We need our ATC system, trajectory, does it work? Does the information exchange with our partners work? Then we have the CFSP systems, Lido, flight keys, sorry. Does it also work there? So we try to communicate with them, let them run the tests, and then we have the NM system, which also has a trajectory with PTRs, restrictions. Does it also work there? And only when all of these systems align, you will have a successful route implementation that will also be accepted by you, because you're able to file it. And also after AREX, we're also always having a look and testing, because then routes change. Sometimes there are some hiccups or some problems with the systems, and we try to identify them and then to communicate in order to get a quick access so that the route is fileable and good for everybody. And that's also what it was so interesting before, because sometimes when we think a route is good, then after communication with the dispatchers or so on, they will say, no, this route is not so good for me. Yeah, there are ATC charges, there are different things, which you also said you have to put it into your system, your leader system, to identify, is this route an option for me? Yeah? Until when it is an option, especially reroutings and so on. But this is also why I think it's so important that we share this information exchange beyond the companies or beyond the level to air traffic controllers, crews, dispatchers. This is what really helps us, I think, to move on. So if we have a look now from our, as far as the supervisor or the flow management position, what can happen in summer high traffic days? Sometimes it's extremely dynamic. So when the pre-takt planning is done by our flow supervisor, he's planning the backbone, what sector opens at what time, do I have enough staff to open the number of sectors needed, where are there already problems, and that's been done in coordination, and sooner on the day we have a very dynamic shift of flows, which is always challenging, and we always need to be reviewing our openings. Do we need regulations? Has the traffic shifted to situations where we are coming into problems? What can we do? Can we get an extra staff? So it's a very dynamic situation in summer. I think you all know that. I mean, you're doing the flight plans, you're getting then possibly rejects because new restrictions are coming in and so on. But again, this is not to make your job very challenging in summer. It is for the safety of the air traffic control sectors. Yeah. Just an example here, we have a regulation of the Erlang 1 Romeo sector, which is a column sector. So you see from the first point of view, it all looks good. Yeah, I mean, it's a very low regulation, so maybe something, weather or turbulence was going on. Nevertheless, all looks good. What happened afterwards? We had a lot more traffic than expected. Yeah. These things happen. This is just an example. As I said, no blame, just an example why we are so focused on this flight plan adherence topic. And we know that everybody contributes to it, all us. Our controllers need a high level of training. It has to be changed because our controllers were always trained service. Safe, expeditious, and service. Yeah, so whenever can, give them a direct, give them a better level. So now we have to retrain it a little bit. We still want service, yeah, but maybe from the service point of view, we always have to look at the network point of view. Is the service that I'm applying in my air traffic control sector helping the network? For my sector, it's fine. What about the next 3 downstream sectors? Will it help him? I don't know. As a controller in position, I don't know. So who knows it? Network manager, flow management positions, that's as good as they can plan. That's why we're trying to teach our controllers to be more attentive to the file level, because we are the filed flight plan, last filed flight plan is the best that you were able to do for your crews, for your flights, taking into consideration all effects that come from the outside. And this this awareness we're trying to raise also with the controllers. It's interfering a bit with their, let's call it freedom of work, yeah? So they want to do what they are responsible for because they're responsible for their sector, but it's getting slower and slower. It will not be something which will change overnight. will change time, but we're taking steps, and as soon as it gets better by step by step. Just a little hint why it is problematic if we see these uninvited guests coming in later on, especially for the flow managers. The thing is, if this happens on a daily basis and we get overloads, even though we have regulations active, the experience that they share will be, I have to apply a lower rate. I have to keep some space for the additional ones that will come in anyway. This doesn't only hurt you additionally because we have less capacity, but it also, it does make sense from this point of view, but this is not what we want. Yeah, we want the capacity, and we want the capacity to be used. So we're not only hurting ourselves, but also you, because for safety reasons, we have to take a step down because we're getting over deliveries constantly. The reason for the over delivery, just as I mentioned, not to blame. Lots of different reasons why this can happen. Also with the tools later on, we will look into it, and they show numbers which are very high. That's why we don't take them for granted. We take a view with our experts on them to really identify the real problems and not just say, oh, it was 1,000 over, because these numbers and dashboards, they're being developed and they need some tuning. And they still need the expert view, because you know, you can see the real things happening, and the things which are just common practice are not of effect. But what the dashboard will show, because the computer will show you everything that enters the sector. Sorry if I'm jumping a little bit, I'll just go on a step. So as I mentioned, flight plan adherence, what can we do? Better use of our capacities, that's our main aim. Better use of our sectorization. If we stick closer to the backbone, to the planned sectors, it will be easier for us to have the staff ready. As mentioned, yeah, this is perfect view world. This will not always happen. We're always trying to be flexible. We're also trying to make our sectors more flexible, but this takes time. We will never be as fast as traffic flows shift with air traffic control sectors. Just as a view here on the right side, you see our South EBG, which is in the Alpine region close to Austria and Italy over Tyrol, yeah, one of the main congested airspaces on the southeast axis at the moment. For July 24, you have the delay numbers from all 4 sectors, and below, this is just part of the dashboard, you see high unintended guest numbers, but don't be too worried about the number of these 4,000 because it's counted per sector. So this is like also one of these examples where the dashboard doesn't tell the whole truth. We have subsectors, and of course then one flight can be counted 6 times. So if we know that, then we can see it in a correct view and get the correct numbers out of it. Yeah, nevertheless, those are the problems which, especially in the south units, we're having. Same picture at the moment. We see lots of well-executed flight plans, and I think the levels are increasing. Yeah, we're quite happy with that. We have certain operators, aircraft types, which are struggling a bit here and there. We know that. That's why we're talking to them. We're just asking for experience, expertise. Why is this happening? Or what can we change? What can they or you maybe change that we get a common goal of getting better levels? Training ATCOs, maybe crews, that's to share a bit of the big picture for them. So there will be more, keep in mind, what I'm doing is might be good for my flight, but maybe not for the next 3 flights from my own airline. We had situations when we had strong regulations, and then there were flights in there which actually hurt the airline operator more because it was blocking some other flights from them. Yeah, so sometimes it's complex. I know, it's very complex. Sometimes there are minor changes which have to be adjusted to get a high output. This is all part of network harmonization, which we're aiming for. This is the goal, yeah. So we can use the capacities. You will get less delay, maybe less reroutings needed, less work for you. But of course, this takes time, and traffic levels are high. Also, an expectation already this summer, or already now in May, we have high traffic levels going on. but nevertheless, we're seeing lots of different partners working together, finding solutions, and working hard on getting improvements for the availability of sectors and of slots as well. Just a side view, just an example, yeah, what happens, even 2,000 feet can make a difference, even though we always say the 2,000 feet is an operational margin, which will always be included in air traffic or aviation. But it can also make a change. You will hit a new sector, since our sectors are in summer very often split in vertical layers. You will hit a completely new sector, and an example was 28 flights were expected, 50 flights came. Yeah, that's almost double the traffic load, and these are of course high numbers, which will then also result in lower regulations. Yeah, it's just a random example. Yeah, so don't mark me too much on it. What do you expect for the future? I've already mentioned it. A very high flight plan adherence, best usage of slots, because we also don't have the unintended guests, we also have the no-shows, which means the aircraft had a slot in the sector, but didn't show up. This is all part of the same thing. What we're aiming for is the common goal to use capacities as good as we can. What else are we offering? We're also trying to help you guys. I'm not familiar with how well this information is always shared. These are just examples by tools the DFS is using. On the left side, we have our free route airspace mapping tool, visualizing the route restrictions. So you can access it anytime. It will show you the available options. You just have to type in your destination or departure aerodrome, and it will show you, it will just visualize the route more or less. We also use it, so Peter and me, when we're looking for options on a fast way, and you can just log on to the website and look for it. Local carriers know we also have airliner briefings for the ARECs, where we visualize and explain the changes that we will apply for the ARECs. This is always helpful. I'm not quite sure how they're distributed all and from the mailing list, but they are available and show all the upcoming AREC changes, and which will always help you then also finding the valid route, which is also accepted. Furthermore, we also have a new dashboard, unanticipated no-show traffic. We just blocked out now the call signs because we didn't know how open this discussion is going to be. But it's just to visualize that this is helping us identify the patterns that we need, or why things are always more often happening. As I said, no blame. We're seeking for the solutions together with the airline operators. If you need help, you can contact us. Yeah, we're not 24/7 dispatcher office, but we will always reply to the email. We want to help you guys if you have problems with the German RAT, or questions also surrounding or filing, looking for options. We want to communicate. You can always write Peter or me, and we will help as good as we can to support you in finding the best route for you, for your airline, for your crews, and operator, which uses the capacity and the ATC slots as well as we can, so we can continue in using the network and increasing traffic and still being safe. Because I think in Europe, if we look, we have a very good safety level in air traffic control, and this is also because everybody's contributing to it. Yeah. And yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you very much, Patrick. I think very clear and comprehensive overview of some of the challenges that you're facing. Flight plan adherence is an issue. It's an issue, as you quite rightly said, for lots and lots of different reasons. I particularly liked you mentioning about teaching controllers about directs and such like. Back in the days when everyone flew in biplanes, I was a controller, and it was exactly how I was taught. When you can, you give a direct, and when you can, you give a direct. And so it's going to take a long time to change that mindset, but it is a mindset worth changing. What I would like to do is see if there are any immediate comments in the room. Anybody would like to have any questions, any clarifications? I think there's a couple online, so I'm going to ask Chris to give us a couple. Oh, was there? Sorry, I apologize. Gentleman in the white shirt, sir.
As a turboprop, mostly turboprop operator, we are often pushed to use lower levels, which are really restricted, and then we are really pushed to use unrealistic routes. My question is, are you maybe cooperating with people elaborating these restrictions to push in the good direction?
Well, if it's normal RAT measures with our lower centers, with Langen, Bremen, or Munich,
it's not really like only the German airspace, it's like in general. Do you controllers have contact with these people directly to maybe raise attention on a realistic route that are filed because we have no choice, basically?
I'm not quite sure if I understand your question correctly. So you're having problems with the turboprops that get pushed to very low levels in the route
we
availability?
are fighting really low levels, and most of the time turboprops and lower levels routes are really restricted. And then we have to sometimes take routes that are not realistic. We always see the pilots getting directs, and then yeah, for you it comes with some unwanted traffic, unplanned traffic.
Well, that's the part that I mentioned. Yeah, the controllers still offering the service. They see, oh, he filed a very bad route. This is the funny thing about it. Like the worse route is filed, or the crazier the route is, probably the better direct he will receive by the controllers because they're trying to make it work. Yeah. But from the planning point of view, I think this will have to go via the EUROCONTROL, the network manager. Just raise questions about RATs and problems, and they're the best partner which can solve it Europe-wide. Yeah.
I think it brings up a very good point about RADs, and we talk about restrictions and non-adherence and such like, and that is one of the contributing factors, and particularly at lower level. And we do see a number of occasions where flights are restricted by a RAD, but then are consistently climbed above it or whatever, and there is a reluctance among some ANSPs to relax those RADs or to erase those RADs as they're no longer needed, and that is something that we do put them under pressure, because I think it's important that we take out. The RAD is complicated enough as well, as you already know, so the more of them we can get out, the better. But it's a challenge, and it is something that we work with our ANSP partners to do. It's a good question. I mean, of course, low-level flights, and Patrick starts at what was it now? 290, isn't it?
245 is the low level. So we have some turboprops in some areas, but not the usual case. So.
Okay, thank you very much, François.
Yeah, at the same time, we are discussing heavily on avoiding contrails. So there is a little music that says to politics that it's very easy, which is not completely false, but we expect that on the EUROCONTROL side, on ATC side, it will be a mess sometimes.
Patrick,
yeah, maybe we have a project in Germany. It's called Delta Cult, which is doing the same thing, and I think also TUI Fly are very involved in that. So far from the impact levels, maybe flight plan adherence would even help there, because if you file it from the straight way and then say, well, the crew should stick to the flight plan and remains within a certain margin, then you could get both things connected to it. Yeah. What we won't work is that we have operational deviations because we have marked areas or so on. Yeah, because that will be like a more or less little military airspace which are moving around the area, and this will then, of course, have a large impact on operations. But if we increase the flight plan adherence from the start and you incorporate that in your daily work, it could be a solution. But I don't want to step into anything for that too much. Yeah, if it depends on how it's implemented. It can have a big impact or a little impact.
Yeah, but we will be asked to count the non-CO2 effect for every flight. So it will mean that at the time we will pay for that. So if there is an event with a big area, ISSR area over Europe, you will have at the end every company that will tend to avoid it because they will have to pay instead of that. So they will all avoid it vertically most of the time. So at the end, I think it will be hard to handle for you, no?
Well, I think Patrick makes the point there about how it's implemented.
But I agree. You know, it's always a problem, like a little bit like, what do we do today? Do we do capacity? Do we do economically? Do we do environmental friendly? Yeah, we're having free route airspace and then options capacity. You have to get everything connected, and that is sometimes difficult because the one side opposes a little bit the other side. Yeah, so it's not easy to make everything work at once. Yeah.
Thank you. It's a very good point because it's an added layer of complexity to what is already a very complicated network, and I'm not a great fan of contrails, as Andy knows, anti-contrail, but that's for other reasons, which I won't go into now. So does anybody else have any comments? I know there's a couple of things online. Tiago.
So I'm not blaming anyone also. But you guys are our problem. More than 60% of the delays are because of ATC staffing. In the low season, we have ATC staffing delays. In COVID, we had ATC staffing delays, slots. So we are stressing with CO2 emissions. We have to pay ATS. We have to pay Corsia. We are worried about our crews. We have cosmic radiation. We have even space weather events now. And in reality, when you say that you are not blaming, and I know you are not blaming, you know, the problems start on here, is you guys. Because it's not particularly you. I said that you don't have enough facilities to support us and make our life miserable. Because then we have to find out how is it truly maze what you create for us. And not only that, we have strikes, and this is very famous, and which can stop everything. And industry that is so hard to make money, because regulators are putting all this restriction to us. I think that I agree with you that straightening the relationship, it's important. I totally agree with you. But there should be a homework done by you first, so we can forward you on the best solution.
Yeah, I think maybe this is not the right level to discuss this because I'm not a manager. I'm an operational person like most of you are here. There are other Eurocontrol meetings to address such topics. So yeah, I'm just trying to make the best out of it from our point of view of operational. Yeah, I can't clone controllers.
I think it's an important point to raise. I'm going to let Kenneth come in here, and then we can discuss this a little more fully, but move on maybe.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. I think it's great that you're here today and are the openness from you are really encouraging. So that's really nice. Now I visited an ACC and a tower. I don't have to say where, but somewhere in Europe. And when I asked them what the air traffic controllers there, what they think about free route airspace, they were certainly not happy. They were really not happy. So can I get your point of view of free route airspace? Is it a problem from an air traffic control point of view when you have entry points and exit points that you may not know? Now we still do not have FFIs. We'll talk about this tomorrow, I guess. But is this an issue for you that you do not know exactly where the traffic is with the 2012 format ATC plan we have today?
Well, I think this is depending on the air traffic control system they're working with. In Karlsruhe, we have a trajectory-based system, and we have high oldie exchange levels with our neighboring ANSPs. So this is not like it used to be with a COP where the act is oversent and then he has to fly the route. With us, free route airspace is not such a problem, because we get trajectory exchange, lat long formats where they enter. So we see on the trajectory already where this flight will be. And this helps a lot. Of course, in extremely dense airspaces, we are a bit reluctant to do full free route airspace 24 hours because this will hurt our capacity. We need some structures in certain points to get the amount of traffic through the area. So at night or in areas where we have more space, it's no problem at all. And it also brings lots of stability, yeah? You know, it's partially also bothering our controllers because he's filing entry Poland, the next waypoint is in London, I don't have to do anything. It's like, yeah, well, yeah, that's it, yeah? But that's why I say, I think it's good. Of course, we need some bit of tuning here and there to keep the structure and capacity that we want to offer. But with a modern ATC system, from my personal point of view, it's not a problem.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions in the room? Chris, can I ask you if there's anything online?
Plan versus actual flights. Flight planning systems trying to find the most efficient flight levels, and filed flight levels can be quite wild. Also, the one NMP offers, which we know, so, though this does not lead to regulation, this cannot be efficient from an ATC side. How many percentage of flights get to fly the filed level?
I think that's a little unfair to ask Patrick. I don't know.
Well, I don't have the data here with me, but I think from my operational personal point of view, most flights make it in their requested level. Peter, not or not, but I think so I think I would just, if I would have a guess, I would say it's over 90%, definitely.
But is that's what
unless you file an unrealistic level like from Prague to Luxembourg 450, that'll be a bit difficult. But with a normal basis, I would say over 90%. Yeah.
Okay. Would you still encourage flight crew to request routes with ATC or still adhere to the flight plan? Because the way we see it, they see it, is the quicker they get to destination, the more capacity is opened up.
Understandable from the crew point of view or the ATCO sector point of view. From the network point of view, maybe a bit different. That's what we mentioned about educational change, which might be needed on all sides.
Okay. Here's the elephant in the room. What are the main reasons for non-adherence, and how can we better improve adherence in the future?
Well, I think it's a little unfair to put it all on Patrick. I think it's a fair point that, and I think he's mentioned some of the main reasons from an ATC point of view, and I'll let you say do that a little bit, but I think we should also look at it from a wider perspective. But just from an ATC point of view.
Sorry, can you say the exact question again?
What are the main reasons for non-adherence to the file flight level, and how can we better improve adherence altogether in the future?
Well, that's what I said. It's educational change of the operating staff. That they understand what the backgrounds of their actions are and have a wider view on it, and that step by step will, I think, increase the flight plan adherence.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just to bring it out wider, some of it comes from air traffic, either because they need to push traffic because of levels and all the rest of it. Some of it comes from weather. Sorry for separation, I meant from weather and turbulence and things like that. But then some of it comes from pilots pushing because the flight plan wasn't, the weather has changed, or the load has changed, the weight, etc., etc. And then there's some unusual flight planning because of the CFSPs and their systems and what they have. So there's so many different factors involved here. Because if it was easy, we'd have solved it by now. This is one of the things that we always say. How can we solve this issue? Well, there isn't a quick and easy solution to it. We're looking at it from all sorts of different angles. We're trying to put some pressure and some influence on all the different stakeholders. For example, we have a webinar at the end of March, which will be on our website shortly for people to register to listen in and to start talking about those issues. We mentioned it at our recent user forum. And that's something that the only problem was there that we didn't have enough time to really dig into it. So what I would like to do, and what we're discussing internally, is towards the end of this year, after the summer, maybe we start having a workshop here to go into to really raise those issues and bring them out. And what it mustn't be, of course, is just a talking shop where we all sit in Europa and we just talk about the thing. We need some commitment as well. So that's going to be the balance to get not just the right people in the room, but to get them to also make commitments and accept that some of the issues may come from their particular area, because it isn't just one size fits all. We all have a contribution to make in that one. But I think it is a very important and quite an emotive subject as well. And so we just have to be a little bit careful how we address that. Chris, are there any other?
Yep, one for Eurocontrol. How does Eurocontrol approach ANSPs who are not necessarily regulated very often to advise them of the importance of flight plan adherence also in the adjacent sectors en route?
Well, I think again, it's that wider view. There are several ANSPs that are more on the periphery, that don't have the impact, don't maybe have the direct impact, but we do have plenty of our working arrangements where we are fully represented. I mean, I'm the chair of the ODSG, the Operational Development Subgroup. We have almost all ANSPs represented there. They are well aware of the issues and take those things home to try and do what Patrick is talking about here, educating the staff, educating the operational controllers on what is on what contributions they are making. And I can remember it well myself, exactly as you were saying. You can do something in your sector and you have no idea what the impact is down route. So we need to educate them. So we certainly have all the working arrangements where we can raise that awareness.
Just one thing to add there, just lots of our partners, they also don't have the system support of comparing the actual level to the filed NM route as we have. Yeah, that's also in development and takes time. Development in ATC systems costs lots of money, takes lots of time, and if there are higher priorities concerning safety, of course, they will be pushed in front. Yeah, this is normal.
Okay, and does DFS think that fly what you file increases capacity, or does this reduce the flexibility for ATCOs and as a result less capacity due to the fact that less aircraft can use the airspace?
Well, as I mentioned, there will always be a flexibility. To a certain amount, there will always be a flexibility to handle traffic safely. But from the big point of view, if you just keep the filing within the sectors that they planned, I'm quite confident that then we can increase capacity or also the backbones and the controllers that we use to operate the traffic.
By how much?
Thank you. You won't hear a number from me here.
Anything else, sir? Okay, good. Thank you. Some really good questions. There's some really challenging questions as well. There are no simple answers to these sorts of things. As I say, if there were, we'd have done them by now. I'd like to be moving towards a quick break, but before that, Chris is going to, well, first of all, thank you very much, Patrick. I think we can close this part off now. So thank you. Chris. And Chris is going to give us a couple of examples of the things that he's seen regarding flight plan adherence, some of the things that maybe we can look at, that may be simple things to fix, and also things that may help you in terms of fuel efficiency as well. He's got a few examples there. Just give him a couple of moments to get that up, and then we can take a few questions about that, have a quick coffee break, after which we have, I think, a couple of pages of questions. Please feel free to ask any more, either in the sessions or via the QR code. I've already primed our operational staff. They're on the edge of their seats waiting to answer the questions for you. So please feel free to put them on the spot. There's nothing they like better than being grilled in public. So I've got to keep talking now for another minute or so, and I'm really speaking slow. I don't know what you mean, Kenneth. But yes, I have to say, being quiet is not one of my talents. But it looks like I'm just about there. As I said before, the webinar that we're planning is we're just finalizing some of the participants, so it should be out on our website next week for you to register, and it would be very useful if we could have some representation from the people in this room, people listening in, because obviously there'll be part of that will be Q&A, and we need to get your opinions on these things. It's very important. And also the next steps and what we can we can really do. I mean, we can workshop things to the end of the earth, but we do actually need real commitments from people on our side as well as on yours and as well as on other stakeholders. Are you ready now, Chris? Yes? Can we go?
Yes, thank you.
Over to Chris.
I'm going to be quick because I want a coffee as well. I want to just highlight a couple of things that Nikos said from Aegean and what DFS said. You know, we all have a bit of a responsibility to play every day. We understand that flight planning systems are very clever, very dynamic nowadays, but I think we'd appreciate, and I think a lot of the ANSPs would appreciate, just a little bit of looking at what you've filed. Our systems are very enhanced. We've put a lot of work into identifying things to help you. And as Aegean said, they look at some of the things and they smooth it out. And I'm just going to go through a couple of examples again. So again here, you've got your two columns, your turn angle and your yo-yo. So for instance, this flight here, where's it gone? That one. Sorry, right. So as you can see, this flight here has a small deviation. It descends down from 3.7 to 3.5. It was about 50 miles, climbs back up again. We know that your system's looking for wind and it could save you $50, but in reality, you're not going to descend in the middle of summer. You're not going to fly for 50 miles and climb again. So what we'd please ask for these examples, please smooth them out. Just keep it at 3.7. You know, this one I looked at, it was in a lower German sector. It went down into another German sector, which it's counted in. If you level it off, it's in the count, and when their flow managers look at it, you're not appearing in different sectors. That's all we're asking. Please just have a quick look. Once you've filed all your flight plans, if you've got any of these YYs, just have a quick look, smooth them out, be very much appreciated. And the same goes for the turns. So we have an example here. So you can see here, up in Germany, you can see this really odd turn here. You know, just please have a look at it. I know for you BizJets it's really complicated because a lot of the aerodromes you fly out of, you have a lot of these tight turns on departure and arrival. But we're just asking, can you look at these and just make, you know, do they make sense? No. Just do a recalculation, refile it. Just from a perspective of, you know, as a dispatch perspective, just that human, because systems are getting so automated, we just need that human endeavour on top of it. That's all we're asking for that. On the subject of adherence, now, as you all well know, this has been a very, very hot topic this summer. And it's not just this summer, it's been a lot of summers. It's just that with the capacity, it is coming to the forefront. So what NM did, and the OPA, if they're not here, I don't think they're here. Yeah, Maliki's here. They developed a dashboard, okay? And it was a horrendous figure. And for some reason, I got involved with it. So I had to have a look at it. So what you can do here, you can look at all your flights. You will get access to it. Just request access. We'll tell you how to get that later. You can get access to this to look at where your deviations are. You can look at, did they fly above? Did they fly below? Where was it implemented? And just see if there's any abnormalities. And when I started looking at it, I started to find things like the way routes were built. So some routes were built with DCT portion and airway portion, and they were constraining the aircraft down. Of course, they're going up. Little things like that. Legacy rules was another one that I came across with the airlines I worked in. Over the years, you've put a rule in the system to stop a rejection. The RAD's changed over a number of years, and it really highlights this. So it's not about all about the efficiency and the adherence. It's about your fuel planning. So actually, looking into this dashboard can save you some fuel. To look where these occurrences are happening on a regular basis. And I'm sure Pegasus, wherever they are in the room, we've been working with Pegasus quite a lot. They've had an issue. We think it's performance, I'm sure you don't mind me saying that they've looked into it. They've identified on certain sectors, on certain aircraft types, they're never making level. They've looked at the performance model. They're implementing a new performance model in the aircraft, which is going to solve the problem. Jet2, I'm sure they're in the room. We had many conversations with them about issues. We resolved the issue, but this is a way of highlighting to you there could be an issue, which we've not had in the past. So I'd ask you all to try and get access to this and have a look at it. There's many things you can do in it. You can do, I've got this separated into 4,000 foot deviations. You can look where the deviation happened, which ANSP is causing the deviation. Is it a pilot ATC interaction? To put a percentage on it, there was a question asked before. What is the percentage? It's really difficult. It's not a 50-50. There's a lot of pilot interaction with ATC. And I'm sure DFS don't mind me saying this one. There is a huge amount of rad busting going on. So city pairs that are capped at 290 regularly get into 33, 35. In this dashboard, I bet there was 250 city pairs that I identified were busting their own rads. And we've addressed it with DFS, they're looking at it. And all these little things, there's so many complications going on. So I implore you to look at this. It will help you with your fuel. You'll be more fuel efficient, and we can look at these, we can start to really look where these problems are happening. So we're going to put up an address in a minute, which you can take a snapshot of, and you can, if it's okay, Maliki, we'll send it to you for access, yeah? Sure. And what we'll probably do, if we get a lot of people, we'll probably do a WebEx demo. We'll get you all online and show you how to use the system and what to look for. Okay? Yep.
Thank you. And I think that really addresses one of the questions that came up earlier about what can we do about it and what are we going to do about it. Well, these are some of the things that can be done about it. Simple things, straightforward things. And I think Chris and I have often talked over a coffee over this sort of stuff. It's just a case of, with all these massively automated systems now, back in the old days when Chris and I were lads, it was all done with slide rules and navigation charts and all the rest of it. And so flight plans were visualized before they were ever put in. Now that happens less and less because of all of the automation. Casting an eye over a plan, over a route, can very quickly see some of those things that were, it won't solve all the problems. No one is pretending it will solve everything. But if everybody does a little bit, then we can move towards getting a much more efficient system. So thank you very much. Malika's worked very hard on the dashboard and her team there. So we will get you access to that. As Chris says, if there is enough demand and people are going to use it, then we will have WebExes to ensure better use of it. And of course, if people want to see different information, different presentations of it, we'll take that feedback and look into how we can adapt it and reiterate it over time. Does anybody have any immediate thoughts on that? Yes, Kenneth.
Yeah, it's quite easy to say it's easy things to solve, and it is, and you're very right. We have some really automated flight planning systems now, and many airlines are using the auto function like the AOS and Lido and so on, and spitting out flight plans. And the problem here, now I know I'm getting a little bit Ufelder mode here, but the problem here is that at the same time the airlines are then not hiring the staff they should hire, and they are not training the staff they should train. And the issue that we see from Ufelder and iFelder is that we can go into low-cost carriers area or these areas where they're sitting two guys at the shift, two flight dispatcher at one shift. They have tons of flights, and they simply do not have the staffing to go in and resolve the issues that we just saw here. And these are simple things to straighten out a flight level or the other issues, but they simply do not have either the training or the staffing to do it. And so that's another issue that needs to be resolved, and where it is really important that the EASA also is back on, they are back on track, and make sure that we get demands to the airlines, make sure we have enough staffing, and that we have the correct amount of training for people, so we can get these simple issues, in fact, quite easily solved.
Thank you, Kenneth. Andy?
I would slightly challenge that, because I don't believe it's EUROCONTROL's job to design systems to identify yo-yos and sharp turns coming out of advanced commercial flight planning systems. I think we need to be going to those flight planning systems and making sure that they code their optimizers correctly to avoid this in the first place.
Thank you. I think there's a general consensus there. Thank you. Boris?
Just to build on that, with the experience on the yo-yo and the turn angle tool, we managed for the first time before some years ago to see them, identify them, and to share them with the aircraft operators. In the matter of days, issues were fixed. Yeah. So we had the dashboard like KLM showed today with some top AOs in certain categories. By highlighting and giving the data to the originator, those managed to disappear over the night, and by continuous use of some tools we are offering, they are performing quite well on that
Thank you, Boris.
level.
I think resource is an issue everywhere across the board. It's been pointed out in various areas. Your point is made and noted. I think there are simple solutions. We just have to be as pragmatic as possible. Where we can implement the simple stuff, and then we have to look a little bit harder on the more complex stuff. Is there anything else that anybody would like to say at this point? What we're going to do is break now for coffee. We'll consolidate any questions that we have online so that we can spend a little bit of time mopping up those questions, and then we'll do a wrap-up afterwards. So go and enjoy some coffee. Thank you. What do you mean what time? I'm not the one that scheduled. 3 o'clock. Back here at 3 o'clock. Okay, everyone. We nearly made it today, the end of day 2. So well done. It's been a very intense couple of days. A lot of information to take in. We want to finish up by 15:30 for various other commitments and just to go. So, but there are just a small number of questions that I wanted to. I've got 10 minutes or so, so I think we're going to try and put them up on the screen so that I can address them to the right people. I think there's a number of them for our NMOC colleagues. So just to make sure that all of your issues are addressed, or as far as possible. Obviously, if there are any more questions, we can do a little bit in the room on the QR code. If there's anything left over, please still ask the questions, and we'll do our best to answer them in some form of FAQ in the post-ops phase. Okay, this one for our NMOC colleagues. What are the main differences between a regulation and a scenario? Which one of you wants to go first on that one? Simon's going to answer that one.
Regulation, well, obviously gives delay through an airspace. A scenario, you have to avoid that airspace. That's the main difference between the two. If you don't avoid that scenario, then you will get delay, and you can sit out that delay. That's your choice, or you refile and you simply depart on time.
From a technical perspective, they're exactly the same. Regulation has a rate attached to it, whereas a scenario is a zero rate and says you can't fly there, you must fly somewhere else. So technically the same, but the impact is different, as Simon mentioned. Weather and rerouting network will be only for summer or extended all year, in particular into the ski season. Jelena, would you like to take that one?
Yes, weather and rerouting, okay, network scenarios will be applicable only during summer, starting as of 1st of May.
So at the moment they are for the summer. That isn't to say in the future we wouldn't introduce something similar during the winter. I'm not sure we do it for the ski season. We have the normal scenarios and the advisory routing scenarios there, but certainly the idea would be if these are successful, we would increase their usage of them based on the feedback, and that may well be one thing that we would do in terms of using them for winter and winter weather. Is there a way to propose a route in the route proposal criteria where we can set the minimum EOBT validity? For example, we want a route which is valid for at least 60 minutes. Can I ask one of the experts down here? Or
there is no way to set it as a parameter for the results. It is just, it's part of the results is the EOBT validity, so you can filter on those results after the completion of the reroute proposal finding mechanism. But it's something we'll take forward as a requirement.
So not at the moment, but we are able to filter on the results Boris, you wanted to say something?
Just to build on it, so in case of automated templates for the GRRT, it is possible to define the minimum validity time that alternative route should have, but this only applies for so-called opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there a way of knowing what the maximum flow rate could be when there is an arrival regulation or sector regulations? For example, the current arrival flow rate is 30 an hour, but it usually is. I think that's what that means. Nicola, can I ask?
We just discussed it between us. So this information is visible for FMPs, is visible for NMOC because we monitor the declared capacities and the regulated ones, but we are quite sure that this is not displayed for the EOS.
I believe that's correct as well. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. What does actually happen when you accept a CTOT improvement request through the help desk? Aren't slots assigned supposed to be the latest ones available? Can I ask my colleagues to...
Yes, if I may.
Stefan, please go ahead.
If I may on this one. In fact, CASA is working really well on filling in all the slots. Sometimes we can squeeze in a slot earlier, but most of the time we have to do a coordination with the concerned FMP, just to make sure that we don't go above the capacity that he has set. But most of the time, again, there shouldn't be any gap in the regulations.
Thank you, indeed. And we have various internal processes which are constantly reviewing the slot lists, and if there is any, with the dynamicity of the system, if there is any way of improving, then it will be done. Those of you that fly out of Brussels Airport, I often liken it to that big board that they have at Brussels Airport where everything goes tuk, 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 and that's kind of how it works as well. At least that's how it works in my brain. Okay, I don't know if this is the last one or there's another page. 3 pages. Well, I'm not sure we're going to get through everything. Okay. Okay, I think there was one more question on the previous one. I just wanted to... Can you go back one? I think you went forward. We'll come back to it in a minute. How does the flight level speed DCT technique work with Zulu and Yankee flight plans, including VFR parts? Andy, you're going to have to help me on this one. How does the flight level speed DCT technique work with Zulu and Yankee flight plans, Z and Y flight plans, including the VFR part? I don't think we quite understand the question. Would that be correct? We don't understand the question. Okay, so if the questioner either wants to stick their hand up now or approach Andy later, then at least we can get that one addressed, because I'm not quite sure what that one's about. But please feel free if you wish to now or later on, and we're happy to see if we can come get to some understanding. In case of heavy delay with crew close to flight time limitation, I'm assuming that's what that means, which is the best option? Doing all procedures on time, asking for a REA message and hope, delay if possible, crew according to the slot. I think one of our operational colleagues, Stefan,
maybe I can answer that one as well. And I will answer very diplomatically. There is not one answer to that one, because the situation can be very dynamic sometimes.
The answer is not one answer.
No, but I mean the situation can be dynamic very sometimes. Sometimes it's a situation that has been there for a couple of hours. So that's all factors that have to be taken into account. Anyway, I think doing all the procedure on time, ask for a ready message and hope, that will definitely always be the less damaging one, I think.
I think if I've understood the question correctly, I remember when I worked for an airline, we were always told board the passengers on time, even if you got a 2-hour delay, because you never know it's not going to improve. And I'm sure that's probably what happened now, although, of course, back then it was DC-3s and stuff. But so it's the same. With the dynamic system, it's entirely possible that things can improve, and so you should be checking, should certainly not be jeopardizing that crew time as a result. Only when we validate a new route, rerouting due to delay, etc., the validation in NMP will show no delay or CTOT until the change message is sent, and then a CTOT will appear. Is there a better way to predict this actual CTOT before sending the change message? Does that not relate to the apply reroute functionality that we were discussing yesterday? I think it does. So the apply reroute would then book you a slot, so that you would then be guaranteed that you know what you get. Is that a good? I did actually understand it. Good. After listening to some of the other issues different carriers also experience in the 11th hour of a flight, coupled with the circumstances shared regarding Eurocontrol, ops staffing and workload levels for issues regarding special cargo such as Class 1 HR or extremely time-sensitive perishables, would it be best to contact an AOLO for these special matters to keep the rest of ops available for more regular needs, or should we still try to send our requests through normal means via help desk or phone line? I think this really relates to the level of criticality of the flight, and I'm going to ask Nicola to answer that question, please.
Okay, they want to take it.
No, I'm going to ask Dima to answer the question. Yes. So basically, do we use the e-help desk or phone line, or should we contact the AOLO?
I think, as we've mentioned before, the first port of call should always be the e-help desk.
Yeah.
Okay, if it is time critical and there's a real issue, of course, in a case where, you know, it's complex, in that case you should be calling us and we can try our best. But I would consider that critical. If
yeah.
Okay.
Yes. No. Thank you. That's. I think that's clear. Of course, calling the AOLO ties you up, ties them up. And so it should be used very rarely because obviously that takes them away from the primary duty, but it is available there. Corporate email requirement. Will group emails work, or does each individual within the group or company group email need their own login information? It's their own login information, is it not, Andy? That's the general intention of MFA.
At the moment, the policy is no group emails in an organization. Every individual must use their own email account with that organization's commercial email address.
Thank you. And I think this one relates similarly. We have experienced company domain outage, which required us to use non-corporate email addresses to send our releases. When we register our company email, do we get the option to include a secondary backup email to be used in the event? I don't know, but we are very strong now on Gmails and Yahoos and all the rest of it. It will need to be a corporate email address, to the best of my knowledge. Andy, do you know differently?
I'm sure that we have said we won't accept those Gmail, Yahoos, etc. Potentially there is an option in this question where you could have a different corporate email account with a different what's the word?
So a backup, so like Chris Peregrine 1 and Chris Peregrine 2.
No, but you would probably have to have it's another server, another account. But at the moment, I don't think we've even investigated the concept of individuals having two email addresses. So it's something we would have to discuss with our technical colleagues.
Indeed, I'm sure everyone in the room's got multiple email addresses. So, but okay, just a change of subject. Now going to the archive, which Natalia mentioned yesterday as part of the NMP. Are the restrictions also present up to date 6 years back? I'm assuming it will be. I think that means what the same functionality we have in the CHMI would be available in the NMP Flight archive.
I'm not sure that the details of the RAD restrictions are available in any of in the CHMI archive. Maybe someone in the room knows better, or is it talking about regulations? If it's regulations, then that will be available as it is in the CHMI, and it does not replace the NMIR. The NMIR is still the main source of archive data, with a lot more data than you will get in the CHMI or the new NMUI applications.
Okay, so mindful of the time and the need to wrap this up, this is the last question. There is another page, I believe, but we will answer those either you can address them individually or we will try and find another way of answering them. But it's regarding the introduction of the RN scenario. Could you please explain again the difference to already existing reroute scenarios? Is it that it's mainly weather driven and only a limited number of flights is required to reroute? How do I as an AO know whether I shall reroute my flight or not? Jelena, can I ask you to answer that question?
Yes, sure. Okay, regarding question, what's the difference compared to the already existing Romeo scenarios? In terms of how it affects you, there is no difference. It will work as any other rerouting scenario. So if delay for you will be above the already set delay threshold, you will have to send either FCM or to reroute to avoid that airspace. It's okay. Primarily, it's created for weather. However, as explained by my colleague Victoria yesterday, we also have additional trigger related to capacity. And for the last question, well, these scenarios are already created and available on the NOP portal. So starting with November, if you want to familiarize in advance and go through them, review. However, if you're captured by this scenario on a day of operation, you will, your flight plan will be suspended and you will have to react accordingly as you do for all other scenarios at the moment.
Thank you. So it is effectively, from your perspective, it operates in the same way as any of the other reroute scenarios, and it is mainly activated by weather. I'm not going to take these questions if I... All right, okay. Will we have an opportunity? If I'm late for my meeting, though, it's on you. How do we have an opportunity to display NMP on multiple screens as we do with CHMI?
Yes.
Thank you. With an arrival regulation which has high delays, is it worth using a critical request or will it usually be denied? Nicola?
I mean, it is worth, but also depends on the reason of the regulation. Because if the regulation is due to weather or due to some specific situation that is giving a very low rate, then it's highly unlikely that we can do something, but it's still worth trying.
Thank you. In other words, it really is, there's no hard and fast rule on that one. It really rather depends on the particular situation at the time. Why sometimes when you ask for a CTOT improvement, you get an improvement, but CTOT becomes bigger with more delay than it was initially?
Evolving dynamic network.
Evolving
Things are
dynamic
always
network.
changing.
EDN, another acronym. Exactly that. As Andy's saying, the network is dynamic. We can improve your slot, and Simon mentioned earlier on about freezing slots. We can force it and effectively freeze it so that it doesn't get improved. But if suddenly Amsterdam goes from 20 per hour to 15 per hour, there's a reduction. Your slot will deteriorate, and we can't protect against that.
I suggest, for political reasons, we finish now.
And I was about to say, now let's wind it all up. I'm not going to answer the last ones. I don't know the answer anyway. So, okay. But thank you for the question. Let's wrap things up. Okay. So today was much more of aircraft operators. Yesterday was a network manager introducing the tools and some of the tips and tricks. Today we had much more of your input. We had Nikos giving us how he and his company uses NMP Flight. He was quite comprehensive. I noted the help function. I think that's something that we've vastly improved over time, so that use the online help, rerouting, the change to and apply reroute. We had quite a few conversations about the best way, and I think our colleagues from Ufalda there were talking about how they would recommend that we go directly into the flight planning systems, and that is in fact the way most of you use it, including Aegean, of course. The ability to configure. And I think this is one of the chief benefits of the tool, is that it's massively configurable, so that it really applies to your particular needs, not just as a company, but also as an individual you may prefer a certain color or a certain set of columns, and then the guy next to you wants something different. All of that stuff can be done, and as you saw yesterday from Natalia, we're looking at even more configuration, and as Andy mentioned, the super user concept as well, where we may be able to, for any particular company, they could set company policies in there as well. So that was really useful. Then we went on to probably the most, the section that got the most engagement today, where Martin gave his how he works on the slot swapping. There was quite a lot of interaction there. What I took away from that was that slot swapping is something you guys would like to be able to do and like to be able to do more. Martin and Nikos set a challenge for you guys to see if you can beat their use of slot swapping. So let's see what happens next year when if we reconvene to see if any of you have beaten Aegean or KLM in the use of slot swaps. Multiple slot swaps, coordination between companies, how that could be improved, whether it's necessary, how could it be improved. I think we noted the automation of it, and also the smaller companies and companies, non-European companies who perhaps have less opportunity to swap, would like to be able to, hey, let's call it like a Tinder thing. I quite like that. So they can swipe left and right and see if they can get a partner to swap with. Okay. So that was the help desk. Boris also gave us some information on the group rerouting tool, opportunities and such like, which was also very useful, and how we can use templates and such like to improve. And I think then we moved on in the afternoon to Francois and how they've developed, using B2B, they've developed their own tool. And they've also used and I think quantified the amount of money they've saved with using opportunities and such like. But they've used B2B. They were one of our first users of B2B, so there was a lot of challenges with that. But we learnt as much from you as you learnt from us, and it's certainly something that larger users may want to consider so that they can integrate it with other tools that they are using within their organizations. And then we had the ATC view from Patrick in DFS, which was very interesting to see what the impact of some of the flight level adherence issues that we've mentioned have been, are on DFS. And we had some conversations about some of the things that we can do, the simple stuff that we can do, that you can do, and that we can help you do to address some of those issues. We're not pretending for a second that it will solve everything. It's a much wider issue with lots and lots of different inputs and outputs, so it's something that we need to do further work on. As I mentioned before, there is a webinar with various participants at the end of this month, which you're all welcome to register for, and we're thinking of doing some form of workshop towards the end of the year, but the reluctance is not so much in having a workshop. It's always good to everyone get together, but we actually need to make sure that it produces something, and that's always the challenge. So we will definitely come back to you on that one. Now, Boris, before I come back to you, you're going to talk about post-ops and what we do about feedback and all the rest of it. Shall I leave that with you? In that case, I'll say thank you very much for your attendance for these last couple of days. I know some of you are staying on for the third day. I won't be here tomorrow, so you'll probably have a much better time. But thank you very much, and we'll see you next year. Cheers.
I just prepared a few words to close the second day because you rightfully said some colleagues will not be with us tomorrow in the room when we're going to focus on the FFIs. They might connect online because the session we planned for tomorrow is going to be available online as well, and but again it will be recorded for those who will not be able to attend. So just before we finish the day, I would like to thank you all participants, especially those not coming to the event tomorrow. It was a great opportunity and pleasure seeing you. We talked about many different, let's say, ways, opportunities, options that we could work on together to improve the way how we are addressing operational questions and issues. So specifically, thank you, our dear presenters from the airlines and from DFS as well, but also to my colleagues from the NMOC on all the presentations they delivered yesterday and also all the questions they answered during the day. That's at least the part we did within those last 2 days. Now, for all of you leaving today, I have just 2 things to ask. The first one is feedback. Very good feedback we got last year helped us to organize this event and actually to extend it for 1 extra day. The better input or more honest input from your side will help us in shaping the next similar event within the EUROCONTROL. So you may follow this QR code to reach the link where your inputs will be requested, and no worries if you are not able to capture it now, you will also receive an email with a feedback form. We kindly ask you to spend a few minutes and to fill it in. And what's the most important thing of the day? Badges. If you are leaving, badges in the box. Again, thank you very much for those who are leaving today, and we will continue with the FFIs tomorrow, where actually I will close with much better words than this afternoon. Thank you all.